And calls all to me, destiny in her eyes, and they see right through me. She lives in 2 worlds at a time. I hear her clearly in my mind, singing a lullaby. It's on to me. In the dead of the night, and calls out to me, destiny in her eyes. Yes, it takes right through me. You live 2 worlds at a time. I hear her clearly in my mind, singing a lullaby. It's haunting me.
Perfect place to end that song, I think. What do you think, Spy?
I like that though. I like the vision, the imagery of that, especially.
Yeah,
The
man. I
dichotomy with the music.
and it's very. This is what I like about heavy metal, right? And a lot of people don't understand why it's such diverse and uh, so great for people to be part of it. Like you can have an Indian in India getting into it and traveling to Germany by being a metal band who, like, out of the, who would never have a chance to do that if they didn't choose to do metal, right?
Right.
Because and then also you can have like a punk band in South Korea playing in the basement to 10 of their mates, right? They pop off because they put that on YouTube. And
Yep.
I think it's just such a amazing time to be alive, dude. What do you think?
I think I think it's crazy. I love it. I didn't think that we were gonna get to the future as fast as we did. I mean, I kind of thought that it was gonna take its time, and I'd never see it, and I'd be old and be like, "Oh, you young kids are living in the future." But here we are, and I'm only 49 right now, so
Yeah. Well, you're just a year younger than me, so we're very close in age. So we're like the old, get off my lawn kind of people, right? Right now.
right, dude, it's crazy. I saw a real flying Iron Man. I mean, the future is now.
Yeah.
I'm here. I am. I got like a crazy cartoon avatar, like Max
Yeah.
Headroom. You know, the AI is going to take over the world,
Yeah.
like the Animatrix. Terminators are
Yeah.
next month. It's glorious time to be alive.
It is. It is. And I think a lot of people just sort of take it for granted. And I'm always like saying, this is a great time to be alive because like just before we started, I was listening to Leo. I think I can't remember his last name, but he was playing Pearl Jam, right, on his bass, and he had underneath it had tablature for it, and in the background on lower thing was the actual song to Jeremy, and so I could, he was picking away with it, and I'm like thinking I would have had to get that for me in the late 80s and early 90s would be go and buy a $10 magazine, which I
Mm.
did,
Hmm.
right, to get the tablature to play my bass to learn on it, and now I can just go search for about and within about 2 seconds maybe of searching, I would have that music come up and I'd be able to go, yo, this is Leo, like and there's like 100 others just like him teaching me
Hmm.
right now how to play bass, man. That's why, like, seeing all the beautiful music come across from the world and all the great artistic ways. Like, like you were saying about this one here, right, with Nina, right, Nini, right. Just look at the visuals on that, you know. And this is Taiwan, and Taiwan, is trying to be squashed by China right now for their,
Hmm.
for their cultural identity. Whenever
Hmm.
somebody, and this happened all across the world, right? The
And
dominant,
Taiwan was famous when I was a kid. I used to have a toy, and it was the most advanced toy I've ever seen. And it was a car. You could just hit these buttons and program it, and it would go across your room. And I would flip
yeah,
across. I'd flip over, and it said "Made in Taiwan." Everything cool was made in Taiwan at that time.
yeah,
And so I just would dream about Taiwan being this magical place of technology when I was a kid. And they
yeah.
are really growing up now. Who was that ArtVictim guy? Hey, Niobe.
Yeah, it's great to have you, Larry. Awesome, man. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. So now, learning about them as an adult, they make the best microchips in the entire world, and I feel like that's
Yeah,
why everybody wants them so bad. You know what I mean? The military
yeah,
grade, high end shit.
Yeah, and like one of the things is like freedom's such a great thing, and a lot of people take for granted about that, and that's why I'm like, because my first girlfriend, right, and this is precious to me, was Taiwanese, right? I knew her for a year and a half, and she was just an amazing person, and and so always like for Taiwan for me is like such a precious place, and I'd always want to visit there. I haven't had a chance yet, but I would someday, and I think. Hopefully, someone like China doesn't friggin' take over and turn it into a communist nation where nobody's allowed to play music like this, right?
Right. I mean, seeing them on the map, you can tell why they want them. They're right there in their lake, basically.
Yeah.
So.
And already Hong Kong's haven't had the pressure, and like it's just becoming like a backward place now because of them. And sad to see that. But politics aside, now who is this ArtVictim? Let's get down to it.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? I started a book today.
Let's start with how did you get into art, and we'll go from there, bud.
I guess it's just like any kid that does art. They're drawing on the kitchen floor or whatever with their mom's making pancakes or whatever. They like something, they hang it up on the refrigerator. That's where it all started. And then you see it on the refrigerator, and then they're like, my kid did that. And then I remember doing I think back in the day it was like Scooby-Doo. I draw Scooby-Doo, but then Garfield and things like that. I just kind of emulate doing them, and then growing up poor, I was kind of more of a poor kid. I always had food and stuff, but that's what you got for free is paper. You got paper and pencil for free, so that's what it was. Then through a project I did just recently with it was for drug addiction and helping kids. With this mural project we did. It was a drug prevention program that sponsored artists and the children of the area, and it dealt with addiction. So I looked up addiction. I kind of delve into my projects pretty good, and I looked up addiction, and I realized a long time ago I was addicted to art and video games. Because addiction comes from a place of pain. It's something that you can get away with. You can get away from your pain somehow with that, and then if it takes away that pain, anything can become an addiction. Some people it's porn, some people it's driving fast, or sometimes it's beating people up or whatever they're addicted to. Drugs, alcohol, or whatever. I feel like I got addicted to art and video games when I was a child, so that's kind of where it started. My dad learned how to read with comic books at the same time I was learning how to read with comic books. So kind of like, we had the old Justice League of America. That's what I started with, and the Golden Key comics and stuff like that. So that's kind of why that's one of the reasons I'm getting back into comics a little bit is it's a way with art, but I definitely branched off into fine art when I was in my teens. Going through school and stuff. That was always my favorite class. I had some supportive art teachers and stuff. Yeah.
Hey, tell me, so in the last bit you're saying there about your dad learning through comics. Now, what was, what time was it? Was it like, was he not like,
it's probably
was he unable to read early on in his life, and then when he was, when you were born, kind of.
He was just kind of I guess he was a slower learner. If I'm just being nice about it, he's a slower learner. He grew up in southern Michigan in a little town there, and it was the 80s for me. So if you think earlier on for him, and he was kind of an older dad. I mean, so he was probably in his 30. He was probably 35 when he had me. I'm thinking.
Right.
So growing up. I don't know, as a knucklehead, I don't know. They didn't teach him very well. You know what I mean? They didn't.
Yeah.
They just kind of pushed him through. Like he probably knew some sight words. He knew stop and and Go and those things like that. But he really didn't know
Yeah.
how to read well, at least until my mom came along. And my mom was better educated. She had been through school. She actually had been to Tokyo and stuff like that through the military
Right.
with my grandfather. So you know, her getting with my dad, she taught him how to read by getting him into comic books, you know. And
It's awesome, man.
and then so the three of us would kind of sit there and read that.
Yeah, I mean, this is something
That's why I got into Judge Dredd, and
right.
some of those cooler comic books when I was a kid. That's when I definitely leveled up from some of those old Donald Duck and stuff like that. You know,
Right.
hot stuff. I used to like that when I was a kid, but then through my dad, I got into cooler comic books.
And one of the things that I've been discussing with, like on our Kiwis and Comics thing, which we do on Fridays, like, what is today? Sunday, so the day before, right? Is that I'm finding out, like, and, in discussions with a lot of different people from our neck of the woods, and how important comics is to boys. And here you are, your mom helping your dad get into it. And I don't mean to dig up some freaking old stuff,
no,
get
that's great.
emotional, but like, it's for, I'm trying to like show people and like get people to understand how important comic is as an educational thing, especially for males, and because they don't understand, they think that like just because females have read comics and that it's for entertainment for them. For us, it's more like education sometimes, because we're visual. Males are very visual. That's why porn is such a huge thing for us. And I understand that. And like, but and one thing I think something there was a conversation that Larry had, our friend of ours, right, on the other day with the guy who was all up in his face about this and that, doesn't like this. And I was like thinking, yeah, at a young age, you don't want to see that. You don't want to show that to a young boy at a young age. At a grown age, that's fine. And there's two, and for me, I fully understand that, because that my addiction to pornography was very young, like really, really effing young. And so I can see, and I'm going to talk about this later, because it's, I mean, on another,
and impressionable, young and impressionable.
That's the thing. And so I'm doing it like later on this week. I'll be doing a comics and ramblings on one thing I saw online, and I responded to that. And so I think a lot of things, that's the thing. So if you put in a comic book into a young, impressionable young boy's eyes, and you go, and it's age appropriate, right? Like Asterix, Tintin, Goofy, whatever. And later on, 2000 AD is for you, right? Just read. Later on, you get more smarter in the language that's being spent, and you read a bit more you kind of like, what does this mean, Dad? What does that mean, Mom? And you get a bit more educated in the spelling and the grammar, and how do you pronounce this word? And so I think this is really cool, man. Hearing that, it was your mom who, said, got your dad to do it. Was your mom into comics? Because it sounds like she was into comics, right? To say, here, use this, or what was the deal there?
Well, I feel like she was more artistic minded, as far as like she was privy to them. She knew that I liked them because I had gotten that little collection going from. I basically got my first collection from my grandma.
Wow.
They had, how they just have a bunch of, I don't know, they had a bunch of comics from my uncle laying around or something. And when I'd come over, they'd give me something, here's something to play with if it's raining outside. So then I got a hold of those, and yeah. And so then, so I guess I don't know. I'll have to ask her what, led her to that. I think there was, he did have some more adult comics. I'm sure. I remember seeing some ladies on some of the comics. But what we read was like the Judge Dredds and the Aquaman. I remember him like an Aquaman and stuff like that. And so then, I think that was just her idea of getting him to focus and being able to focus on something other than just a page full of daunting words,
Right.
That I can see that being daunting for somebody that's like trying to read and you don't understand everything. And then you look at a page of just everything that you don't understand. Where at the comic book, you can look at the page and be like, okay, here's a punch. that says pow,
Yeah.
pow, like you're putting two and two together, kind of like. So I think that is a testament of my mom being a little bit privy of how she could do it,
And also like the fact that she's like a military child, right? Like they you say military brat, but this she doesn't sound like a military brat, so I was going to say military child. Now with her being all over the place, she would have come across different languages, different people and stuff, and for her being very highly, in what I would sense, educated, worldly person, and influenced by things around her and other people, and then having some, getting married to someone who was having learning difficulties, and then in turn realizing that and trying to help him. I find that really cool. The fact that, hey, this is my husband that I love, my partner, and I don't want. And this is the thing about females I understand really well, that females really care about their mates in the sense that, and not these days, but like way back then, they were really concerned about like looking well themselves and nobody saying nothing bad about their mate. And the same thing with guys, right? Don't dare say anything bad about your mum, right? Or you get a wallop. And I've had that with dads, like, how dare you, like, and even if mum's wrong, you just don't, and so there is that companionship, looking after your partner, making sure that they are, not thought ill of. And I think this is something that I think very, your mum's probably taken on board. What was her travels like?
Well, they went all over the place. My grandpa was he was a top secret military dick. He was a dick, to be honest. Like he was definitely that old school right wing dickhead. And he was, and he was top secret back in the day, because what he did is he guarded computers. So that's what took him to Japan. That's what took him to Korea. That's what took him around. He ended up having some time over in the, I don't want to say Germany per se, but I can't, that story is
Europe.
Europe. He was over in Europe for a little bit, and then and really, like, as far as I'm saying, top secret, he wasn't smart either. That guy, he was just a truck driver when he got done. You know what I mean? But top secret in the fact that he was guarding, at that time, he was guarding top secret military equipment. They were probably just starting to set up the whatever, that transatlantic cable and that internet and all that stuff. So just starting to figure that. He'd say, I remember him telling me a story about the computers were the size of a house. And then they had a building over top of them. That type of thing. So, and he was just crazy that his gateway worked, and so it was crazy. It's crazy life, where there's a dichotomy of here's these old people that see it one way, and then here's us in the middle, and then the kids growing up are going to see a completely different thing than what we're seeing now. And you wonder which way it's going to go, because I've seen movies where they go both different ways.
So now you got handed a whole bunch of comics, from your grandma and stuff. What was that like? Like just, you haven't spent any money on it, and here's someone just giving you a whole bunch of comics, and how many were there? Do you still have them?
No, I lost basically all of my comics just recently in a move. But I remember really like thumbing over the old Wendy comics and the old Hot Stuff ones, and
right.
I mean, you really would read the comic. I would read the comic like, sometimes fast, and then I'd sit there and read the advertisements over and over and over and over again, and be like, I want those sea monkeys, I want I want the eyeglasses that can see X-ray vision. Can you really? I'm like, can you really see through somebody's skirt? How they have the bones in there and stuff. Like you're wondering, like that's, and then you're seeing they would actually advertise the comic books you could send in for, and then they would send them to you in the mail or whatever. So sometimes those those first ones when you're young and poor, you'd look over them a million times, you know.
Yeah.
And then you know, basically then that's where if I got some paper, I'd just try to do my own, you know, try to do not my own necessarily, but try to do the hot stuff or do the Garfield.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, that's a classic picture even right there.
Yeah.
You know? He's little hot
So
stuff. Wendy the Good
so
Witch. And
so you used to draw, like, you know, trace them and then try to do your own version of them and stuff like that.
yeah, well, I wouldn't even trace them at first. You know, I don't remember having tracing paper or anything you could see through for a while. I'd just sit there and kind of draw them. Oh,
So you
so
didn't
my
use the
mom,
window, right? You didn't go, the sun's shining through and you put it across on the window and have it
I
shine
do
through.
that. I'll do that now. You know, I got all the tricks
Yeah.
now, but and you just start gaining these tricks over years. I remember a good set of books, and I tell everybody
Yeah.
even now if they want to get into their kids drawing or if they want to draw themselves, there's a book called Ed Emberley, How to Draw and Using a Thumbprint, or he'd start with shapes. You know, like if you start with a triangle
Yeah.
or a square, you know, and then you could put a couple triangles under there, and you could put a triangle on top and make a deer with these shapes, you know, and
Yeah.
and it would progress like that. So I remember that set of books really jump starting me into doing my own stuff.
Right.
You know, rather than just sitting there trying to cite copy something, you know.
Mm.
And I don't
Did you?
remember anybody in school teaching me like line work or pencil or color work,
Right.
you know, until later on. That was, you know, where I got my line and my technical skill drawing was getting into drafting and architecture, and that's where I got my lettering skill at first and got a good handwriting going. And I remember my teacher even telling me, he's like, "You're just in here for the pencil, aren't you? You're not really here for the drafting. You're here just for the art of it." And I'm like, well, no, I like drafting, you know, but he was right, you know. I mean, I do like the technical aspect, but I was just pushing
Yeah.
a pencil, you know.
Did you, you know, like, this is like in the 90s, like when I was getting asked to do like Wolverine, you know, stuff like that, and you know, big A2 size friggin' paintings and drawings and what have you of Wolverine by, you know, it's gifts of, like, for a parent will go, hey, can you do this for me, because they knew I could do it. And the kid, this is like the 90s with the 97 thing, right? Like before, I think, when was the cards coming out? And was it like 93, 94?
Yeah, I think so, because
Cards were big.
I graduated in like '93, and I remember having like the Marvel cards and stuff like
Right.
that.
So it would
There
have
were some
been
Marvel cards
93, right?
somewhere around that. I mean, I could look it up to be certain or whatever, but there was also those Dungeons and Dragons cards, or I think there were some cards from them.
Right.
They were trying to make a
So
game or something.
yeah. So the reason I was saying that was like, so I would take a little image about, you know, like an inch size, you know, like a Matchbox car size, and I would basically, because I don't free, you know, normally I don't freehand. Except last night I did a freehand gun for a friend of mine for his 40th, but like I would, you know, cube it all out, you know, basically do it, draw it on a Matchbox, you know, exercise paper where it's like all these cubes, and then I'll draw out, you know, on the little image, right? Cube it all out, and then I'll kind of resize it onto this A4, A2 size, which is like huge, right? It might even be one A1, because when I'm thinking about it, it's like, you know, about 50 centimeters by 100 something, and you know, and then paint over it. Is that something you used to do as well, like resize images and,
Oh
you know?
yeah, yep, yeah. Where I first started getting them, I mean, they were usually resized to regular paper size, and then
Right.
you know, where I started getting into doing them bigger was getting some poster board, you know, because you could get poster
Right.
board at like Benjamin Franklin's here, or even Kmart. I remember having some poster board every now and then, but I couldn't really afford gifts for friends. And I remember my one friend, Bub, he would just say, he's like, "Hey, will you draw me Wolverine or whatever?" So
Yeah.
I mean, I had a classic picture of Wolverine with his claws up and the bullets behind him, the bullet holes,
Yeah.
and I just kind of, sit there and draw it in pencil, really, and then give it to him for his birthday, and he'd have that
Yeah.
shit on his walls forever, So that was my biggest, my first time really blowing things up to a size. My mom we never owned a house or anything, so I couldn't really paint on the walls or draw on the walls like some
Yeah.
kids could. But that poster board kind of stuck with me. I still will use poster board today.
Yeah.
I use it a lot for stenciling.
They just reminded me of my sister at like about 3 or 4 years old, like putting lipstick on her lips and kissing the wall, like just to see what it was like.
Right.
And then my dad and mom comes and goes, "What the hell are you doing?" Or drawing on the friggin' wall with like felt pan and stuff, and not realizing, that this is like permanent, and now you're gonna get in trouble. And I kind of like, some parents have a tendency not to realize how to deal with that, and they just act in a real aggressive way and not realize the kids are like trying to express themselves. How about getting a piece of paper and pen? And that's where like I'm really with our conventions, I go, this is where you need to go and get them a paper and pen and coloring pencils.
Or just a big, just a big paper. Yeah, just a big paper that you can tack onto the wall. If you allow them to put a poster on the wall, why can't they have a big poster board or whatever? And I think that new school parents are more susceptible to be like, because basically they wanted to do it when they were a kid. They got chastised for doing it, and they're just going to let their kids do it now because that's the fun thing to do. So I think newer school parents are a little bit cooler in that aspect. They also got cooler wall. We didn't have drywall when I was a kid. We had that paneling that was like wood paneling with the
and the little clips. You're talking about like little jags in the middle, cut in, and so it's like this big and it's like stuck in, so it's not all flat.
No, it's not all flat. Like it would just suck to draw on anyways. It's like dark brown, and it had the black strips to make it look like it was different pieces of wood. Yeah. You could paint over it, but then you'd still have those jags and those little indents in there.
So when did you realize that this was something that was important to you? Like when did art become important to you?
I don't know. I just think it was always. I think it was always there. Where I think that art, where I started thinking about it differently. I worked for a little punk store in town, and I mean, I always had my sketchbooks. Somewhere down the line, I read something about Da Vinci's notebooks.
Right.
How he would keep a notebook everywhere and all that stuff, and then he wouldn't. They say he was one of the smartest men just because he could go through his old references. That's basically kind of what it was. He didn't forget things. He always wrote it down. So I always kept a sketchbook after I could start affording them and whatever. I mean, I still probably have, I want to say 50 sketchbooks because I kept every single one. Where I started feeling, I don't know, there's a couple important times, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it. There's one time in school, because I never did color. I always did my pencil. And I'd get my pencils down real good. Sometimes I'd ink them, but then I'd be afraid to color it because I didn't want to mess it up. Or then everybody in school always wants to take your stuff, right? They always want to, hey, can I have that? That's cool. And then you wouldn't have it. I'm like, well, I want to work on it when I get home. I want to keep it. Well, somewhere in that timeline, I had worked in the office. How I don't know if in your schools or whatever you could have like a little job shadow in the office, and maybe it's because I was a shy kid, they pull me in there and they just kind of have some special time. But I learned about the photocopier, and they're like, well, why don't you just photocopy your artwork and then you could color the photocopies, and that was a monumentous thing in my art, because then I could give away some of my pictures. I could keep
Right.
the original. I could color some and mess them up or not. That was great. So that's a good turning point.
How old were you at that time when when you got that opportunity?
Um, I'd say that was probably like 5th grade. I don't know what.
What's the
Or
age for that
14.
for you?
I
14?
yeah, I'm just kind of guessing. I guess, yeah, somewhere around 13, 14. I don't know. And then yeah, then I'm starting to color and keep stuff for myself a little bit better. And then yeah, the sketchbooks and stuff. But like I was going to get to is like a good turning point was that working at that punk store, photocopy. I don't know, Xerox photocopier. Yeah.
I was
So
just
then,
thinking when you said that, like when you said that, I was thinking like this is like our digital layers thing that we do now, right? Where we take it into a software like Clip Studio Paint, which is what I use, and I know there's Critter and some other Photoshop and all these other things with layers in them, and it's very similar in what we do. We scan it, we take it in, and now we can color it, and now we can send it across. And so photocopying back then would be for me, my small little mind, I would say it's exactly the same kind of learning for us now. It's like this digital becomes the photocopying method, right, for our generation, for the current generation.
Well, and so, I mean, getting through that topic, even there's another thing that comes to my memory too. Is there's a teacher I had, Mrs. Cleo, and she was a little bit next level. She was like one of those weird art teachers, She used to make sandcastles and do it with like glue. I don't even know her process, but then she would kind of have these sandcastles that would stay. You know what I mean? I don't know how she did it, but and then she brought in pointillism and stippling and things like that, which I thought was incredibly boring. But but she also had a multimedia section of her class. So and because she was afforded enough that she could get a VHS tape recorder. And so she was trying to teach us on how to do radio and how you don't have any silence in your radio broadcast or your video, because that's when people could tune out, And then she brought in, what do you want to do? Do you want to make a movie? Blah, blah, blah. Do you want to do this? And I'm like, I want to make a cartoon. How do we do that? And we jinked out this jinky cartoon. Like she figured out some things. Like she must have gone home and researched, you know what I mean, to try to help her students to go in the direction that they wanted to go. So I remember her getting some of that vellum. Well, it's not vellum, but it's like a clear plastic for the projectors. Remember those projectors?
Right, the vinyl, a little clear, vinyl.
It's like a clear piece of paper, right? And she got a bunch of those, and she had figured out something about Disney or something, and she had me draw on these things and try to put them together.
Yeah.
And then I remember putting this thing together, and she's like, I remember her telling me, don't get discouraged, because the way a VHS tape is, it's not like a, because they would take still frame photographs to do an animation back then, and then they'd do it over layers there again of the clear plastic. And that's how Disney would take their thing. There's a still photograph, then another still photograph, and another still photograph. Well, we couldn't do that with a VHS tape, so we just kind of jinkied it together, and it did work. When you played it back, it was like it kind of worked, and it was jittery and stupid, but that was probably the first animation I did. Was on that type of plastic paper with markers. And it was just a little dude that shot a lightning bolt, So
this
it
is
wasn't
the thing
anything
here
special.
is like, I mean, like, this is like, I was looking at this thing, so this is the most recent projecting drawings you can do. Let me see if this come up. Can you see that? So like this is
I'm seeing it on I'm seeing it on both.
Yeah, so you can see how people are doing, this is the next level in our, current modern technology level of projecting.
Well, and even then they say that some of the old masters used to use mirrors and stuff. That's how they got like pictures that were so precise of the like the Eiffel Tower and things like that. They were actually using a mirror system and a box. So it's although it's new with the phone there, but really it's kind of old tech.
Yeah. And then also you've got that whole where you go put a light box underneath and that light shines through, and now you can do your tracing and
Mm-hmm.
change things around, like you're talking about, like with the cartooning, right, for Disney, and you can just change a little bit and a bit more and a bit more on each little piece, and now you can get motion. So carry on with
Mm-hmm.
that.
With the motion graphics or whatever,
Yeah,
or
with
just
we stopped at talking about like the photocopying and using the projector and imagery,
mm.
which you teach us. So tell us about what was having someone like that in your in your education or in your life.
Well, even though she was a blip in the timeline, because she was only, I mean, really, I think I only had her 2 years,
Mm,
but just somebody like that where they can give a spark of
yeah,
imagination and just a little bit of that knowledge. That's the first time I ever held a camcorder, and it was VHS back then, or
yeah,
I mean, it might have been beta. I don't even know. Uh, it was just, and so that the problems that we found is that when you hit the record button, there's a delay between where it actually records. This stuff,
yeah,
then it goes and you try to hit the stop button, but it's like then it's a delay in the stop button, and then you got to move your picture, and then you got to try it again. You got to move your picture and try it again, and you're
yeah,
not getting the same amount of time each time, and it was just clunky as crap. But it came
yeah,
out, and then we couldn't put music behind it because we didn't have the things. But that got me into that kind of memory. Got me into later on when I was like a punk teen growing up, and I could, after a while, you could find VHS recorders. Remember the recorders and stuff that you could
yeah,
and players.
yeah. I had
And
I had friggin' tons of fun with video recorders, man. Like that's what
oh,
got
me
me
too.
going to film school. Like I had gentleman in the 90s, like late 80s, who used to live with us, and he was from Australia, Indian guy, lived with my uncle and auntie and I, one of rooms, and so I got to play with his really expensive friggin' thing every night when he was done, right?
Mm.
And I like edit like I remember editing and what was it, like a Child's Play movie, like the first
Mm-hmm.
one, initial one, with the music from Anthrax, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to edit that, and that's why I like. That's why I've always loved video films and cinephiles. This is when I was like watching like about 8 movies a
Oh, you
week,
could do it
right?
punk
And
style
so
really easy back then.
yeah, and
Y-
so it was in camera though. It wasn't like you could go and do that. I was like in camera editing. So you could
Mhm.
basically go, yeah, I'm gonna go do this, and then like see it up there, and then go, yeah, I'm gonna pull this back and everything. And so I would make a 5 minute or however long that music was, that song was with Anthrax, and then put that on there. I can't remember. Keep It in the Family. If I remember right, it's Keep It in the Family. It was a song, and I added that into that. And so later on, right, when like years later, like I'm not talking about like about 15 years later, I'm doing stage production, and I use music on friggin' as a backing to a
Mhm.
video clip that I've made for to introduce to the live action that we're
Mhm.
doing.
'Cause-
And I think a lot of people don't realize how important the video camcorder became to the whole movie industry when you could have it in your own hands and do that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it spurred on Jackass and all them guys.
Yeah.
You know, uh, CKY2K and all that stuff. I mean,
Mm,
and I didn't have my own camcorder for a long time until
right.
probably 2000.
Okay.
And then we did some
Yeah.
snowboard. We did some snowboard craziness. My friend shot a
Right.
bottle rocket out of his butt, and we did some crazy stuff. But before that, I was like buying these old VHS recorders, and then you could hook two or three of them up together, and you could
Yeah,
take the
man.
cords and switch
I,
them,
I, I was
and
such a
then
terrible person with those two things.
yeah,
I
you
think I was
can.
very terrible with like hooking up and recording and editing. Carry
Yeah,
on.
I remember taking clips from the Electric Cowboy and playing this song on my boom box and taking the audio from my boom box and the clip that I made from the Electric Cowboy video, and it
Yeah.
would be singing on a steel horse I ride, and and that
Yeah.
guy is like getting chased by the cops on his horse. You know what I mean? And it's like you're re-editing everything that way.
Yeah.
It was, and then like we had talked before on a different show, Pump Up the Volume was out. You know, so
Yeah.
that was an influence on all that stuff. Like, you know, I was like, I gotta figure out a way to broadcast this. You know, it probably is. You know, it's also what ended up becoming my stream eventually, is me wanting to be a Pump Up the Volume Max Headroom kid
Yeah.
or something, you know. Yeah. But then like so with the artwork, I got into that punk store, and then I was kind of managing that as like a one person show, really, as the owner ran he ran a different store in a different town. Like he had two of these stores. They were like
Right.
punk clothing and DIY wallets and all this you know, we sold porn star clothing and kickwares and alternative hippie stuff, you know, I mean, incense
Right.
and all that stuff, right? So he knew that I was an artist, and I'd sit there and dual task. I'm if nobody's coming in, I'm drawing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people would they started buying my stuff. That's where I
Wow.
started just buying cheap frames and taking
Yeah.
those photocopies and putting them in frames and selling them for $5-10, you know. So
When was this?
another.
What year was this in your timeline?
That was probably 2000. There again, 2001, something like that. You know, I'm having to write all this timeline down myself because it's getting to be old now, and I'm gonna write a book. I figured
Yeah.
out. But yeah, like so. Once I was done with the snowboard, because I went out to Colorado for a couple seasons and did the snowboard bum thing after college, and I came back and I just ran that punk store, and that ran me up till 2006,
Right.
you know, something like that, 2007, because I started tattooing in 2006, and then you know, so those timelines are both pretty big times of life, but yeah, that punk store definitely cut my teeth into selling, and that was probably another big hit of the addiction. You know, once you start making money with it, then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, wait, you know, like I don't want to do anything else. You know, I'm going to be an
Yeah.
artist. You know, so that punk store did pretty good, but it was a small town, so it only got so far. You know, some of the punks would buy my stuff, and that's where I started making T-shirts. You know, back around that time, you could get the thing on at Walmart or Kmart or whatever, where you could print it out on your own home printer. It was vinyl, and then you can iron it onto your shirt.
Yeah.
And that was cool, except they died after 2 washes in the washing machine. But I would sell them, you know. I remember knocking off a bunch of Good Charlotte stuff. That was my biggest hit because, you know, I draw my own designs, sure, and people would think it was funny. You know, I did one shirt that said "Pimp Ass Motherfucker," and I did some punk as fuck shirts, and I did some shirts that said "Fuck Hot Topic," and I did, you know, I did some punk stuff like Pac-Man on crack, where he had an X in his eye and a tongue out of his mouth. You know, I did. I did Hot Whores Motel. You know, I did all these plays on the
parodies.
Classic, pop culture stuff. You know, but I remember like all the kids in town, they were like hot. They were just hot after Good Charlotte, and we couldn't keep them in stock. So I'd make Good Charlotte. You know, I'd put those guys on the front of a T-shirt, and it would instantly sell. So that's where I started getting into doing fashion and stuff. Like that's where, you know, I low key, you know, I know the scene's kind of getting to know me for comic book stickers and stuff like that, but really I got a huge fashion influence in me too. So, and that's partly because of that, you know, where then I was like, okay, what's cool about this is it's art and it's wearable. That's why people are buying it, because it's like a dual purpose, you know, because people do like art, but especially when times are tough, they don't buy it unless it's dual purpose. Like if they got a table that is artistic, or if they got, you know, like a shirt or a blanket or something that they can use as well. You know, that's where the double hit sometimes will help, you know.
Now, I'm going to bring up some of your artwork here from, from Deviant, so people actually get to see what your, art style is.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking a bit about, I mean, the thing about artists is that they have art to show.
And
With
that's
me, as a writer, I have writing on the comics to show, right?
mm-hmm.
So, but like, this is the joy of like actually having artists, interviewing artists, is that we get to see your artwork itself.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's an old account too. Actually, that's my really old account. I
yeah,
don't even know if yeah.
and so when I was looking at your work and I was going, this is pop art, but it's not pop art in the sense as like when it's a derogative term. It's actually pop art. Is such an amazing thing. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this really energetic, kind of like it's kind of like this middle ground of like a joy, artistic joy, and like that can be really scary. Like look at it, it's a really scary picture, but then the way it's done, it's kind of like really funny as well. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I've always loved pop art and that style, and why I find it's really cool. And cartooning is really amazing as well. So
Yeah. Thank you.
take us. When did you do this, and what was the the timeline for this work that you're doing?
This one was during the tattoo years. I was studying a guy named David Tevenall, and I implore everybody if they wanna look up somebody who is just an utterly beast of an artist, and I think he's a pretty good guy too. He's a tattoo artist still. He tried getting away from tattooing a few years,
Yeah.
but it's hard to be just an artist, But I found him because I got this pack of markers at Hobby Lobby, and they were damaged. Like the packaging was damaged, so it was like
Yeah.
really cheap to get into, like a good 30 set. And that's what started me off with markers. But I researched on how to use them because I had a friend in Colorado that was an artist, and he used markers, and I was like, I don't know. It's just like you get bad markers, and you're dealing with the Crayolas back in the day, and it's just not hitting for you. But then you find somebody that's good at them, and you're like, how did you do that? And then I got my own set of alcohol markers, and then I researched David Tevenall, or I researched how to use markers on the internet, YouTube University. And here's this, like, most of them are, normal nerds that, I love them, but it's like watching paint dry. They're like, here's how to do this and this and this, and then here's a guy who's like drinking Coronas and slamming back, he's just slamming out these skull drawings, you know what I mean? And they're just cool as hell. And then I'm like, oh, what's this guy, and he basically showed you how to do it through doing, and I follow him today. I'll put him in the private chat there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just thought this made me feel sad because Akira Toriyama, and I'm like, taking a moment here.
And I actually met David Tevenall a few times through the years, and I gave him a print of this and the Vegeta that I did, and he's like, "Oh, this is awesome! I really love the Vegeta's Scouter, how I did the eyeglass on the Vegeta." And so, that's the timeline of that. It was probably 2012, 2015, something like that. I mean, it might even say in the corner there, but I was heavily so what I'd do is I was just pumped for blasting out tattoos every day. I was pumping out. Yep, that's 14 there, right? I think 7. I don't know, but anyway, so then I
think it's 17 or something. I mean, from what I can tell, but yeah, if it's 14.
The cool thing about that is I had a really good studio at the time, and I had a lot of lighting, and I had a really big table that was always clear. I had the camera setups able to happen. I had just like a lot of, I had the money to sit around for a minute if I needed to, and I could spend 6 hours at a time on a piece and not feel like I was like wasting time on doing my own stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're financially stable, you're actually a lot more able to be creative because you're, like that one right there, the girl shooting eyeballs out of her out of her hands. It's
That one?
like
Yeah.
that one was one of the ones that was more satisfying because it's out of my brain. You know what I mean? It's like me pushing my style a little bit. Like, what do
Yeah.
I want to do? You know? So
So talking about style, right? And I'll get to Emberly in a minute, but like talking about style, when did you realize this is a style that is you? You know, and this is the style that you're going to chase because people are liking the style, or was it because this is what you want for yourself, or was it because it was commercially viable?
I don't know. Like, I don't even know. Sometimes I don't even feel like I have a style necessarily. And I guess if I did, it would be, this is kind of maybe my style. I guess if I were just to, if I were to wing it, I feel like, I can push styles. I can, I got some stuff that's ultra line work where I try to think like an artist in their head, like what would Aaron Horkey do if I wanted to do ultra line work, or Gustave Dewar, like who do I want this piece to look like, or who do I want to, like sometimes I say like I'm AI, right? I'm a bit artificial intelligence. Like I am a cultivation of everything that I've seen, and I'm just spitting it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what prompts do I want to put into my head to get out of my hands? And so this might have been like, okay, what if I wanted to emulate David Tevenall and this artist named Grime. There's an artist named Grime who I'm heavily inspired by. I'm inspired by a million artists, but I'm like, what if they were to push that out of my hands? You know what I mean? And so, that's where this might come from.
It kind of like gives me, it kind of like, it makes me feel like there's like all these influence, like all these mentors, unknowingly people, ideas just standing around you, and you're there going, right, and then they're all watching over you, and that's the picture I get in my head when you said that. It's like, oh man, think of all those fucking hundreds of people behind you standing over, and like not realizing how much of an influence they have been unknowingly ever, and you'll never meet them yet. You're putting that.
We were just talking about, because I've been doing a lot of chibi work. Niobe, if he's still in the chat, he wanted me to do a chibi sticker for him. I got a chibi sticker for Jason Lennox coming up from Lord of the Cosmos. I got another chibi for Niobe on the table. So I've been going back into my brain and being like, okay, who's my chibi reference? And there's a girl named Junko Mizuno who I studied for a long time. And I've probably drawn Junko Mizuno style things. I probably have 100 references from her that I've done. And so, yeah, when I think of certain style that somebody wants me to push, that's where I'm just like drawing on this base in the pool of my art brain. You know what I mean? Yeah. My own pool of artists that I've stored in my brain, and then I'll Google search again and be like, yeah, okay, I remember these guys. Like, yeah, sometimes I'll have to go back through and re-up. If you look at that DeviantArt page, the top one in the middle, the girl with you might not be able to. I think she's got boobs.
It's all right, but check this out. Is this what you're talking about?
Yep, that's Junko Mizuno. She's fabulous. Right. And then there again, okay, so we just had this conversation about boobs and over whatever.
Yeah.
She's a woman artist, so I mean, take what you will with that, but she's definitely got that. She's just definitely got a crazy style. I love her.
Yeah. But it's imaginative, right? It's fantasy. It's cutesy. It's like really pleasant on the eyes, and I think a lot of people lose that sort of aspect when they make overbroad statements about certain things they personally don't like. Rather than moving on, they just want to dig at it and ruin it for everybody else just because their own personal thing. Right. That's why, like I was saying in chat the other day, I was so fuming that I had to get out of the house and go garden while I'm still listening on my mobile phone, I'm weeding the garden, or actually I was like, sticking some, coriander seeds into a new pot plants, so I could grow some more, herbs. And I just, I was just wild, man. I've never been so wild with watching the Niobe thing. And I was like, I was really, really, really aggro because I was thinking, who the hell,
I feel that was they were trying to snipe it. I feel like there was another group that was trying to just cause problems and send them in there. And I feel like the kid, I'll say a kid, he was just not prepared. He's not, to even defend himself. It was cannon fodder as far as I'm concerned with that.
Yeah, and I'll link it over in the comments for you guys to watch, what according to what we're talking about here on that. But I mean, that's something I'll deal with another time. But I was just thinking, like, how, like, we're talking about that sort of thing. Let's just pop over to that. So I'm going to bring up that image of yours, right? Hopefully I've got it still here. So stuff like this, right? And have I lost it? Here, this red one we're talking about?
No, so there's a bunny girl with a this was probably inspired by Coop. If you ever known the art of Coop.
Let me look it up, because I haven't heard the name, but I know it kind of reminds me of my our own local artist here, late artist, right? Which is called who is called Martin Emons, right? So
okay.
But I'll bring up Cook first before I go to Martin Emons. So how do you spell his name?
Coop, and I put that in the Streamlabs chat too. This was probably inspired by the art of Coop, and then I kind of draw I always liked character. I like Bob Layton, so he, as far as like my girls go, they're not as I don't know, not as thick as like a Coop drawing would be. But
so you're thinking this? Let me going to try to make sure if this is the one. Is this what you're talking about here? Is this Coop?
Yeah, that's Coop. Yep. See the devil girl?
Yeah.
He'd do a lot of really busty, thick-thighed devil girls. He did some really controversial ones where they were like nuns. There's nuns and their boobs out, and all kinds of crazy stuff. He was definitely pop culture, lowbrow artist back in the day. He's been around for years, but yeah, this guy he's definitely a huge influence on me. He's probably what got me my line variation. He's very good at doing like thicker lines underneath and thinner lines on top. That type of line variation, and I love Coop.
Well, it's kind of like I can get this skateboard off here, but it's kind of reminds me of this, right? Like this is something my own,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
My friend, Art of Evans on Instagram and Twitter, not Twitter, Facebook. You can check out. But like the line work is something that I find really, something more. One of the most important things about art and choosing your style and stuff, right, is that you decide what is going to be the way you draw your lines, because that's what's going to really, really make a decision about your style, and that people recognize your style from anybody else is how the lines work. So you could basically look at the way he uses his lines and it's his work, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what he does it on, and like he's just done a right?
It's a style tell. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a style tell. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it's very important to get your line the way you want. Anybody can like tell a Jim Lee art.
I was just gonna say that might be some of my first experience with lines is trying to emulate Jim Lee or even Liefeld or something like that with their different I don't want to say cross hatching because they didn't necessarily cross hatch. They contour lined. They were getting into where they were like, okay, cross hatching is anti-contour, so we're just going to keep a good contour line. And that's getting into where then at that punk store, I got introduced to MC Escher because somebody brought in MC Escher.
Before you go to that, I'll put up this. So this is Martin Emmons, right? So this is one of our late greats, Martin Emmons, and this is White Trash, and this is his own book that was published locally by one of our 30-year veterans of comic shop owners, which is Duke Colson, Heroes for Hire. Heroes for Hire. Sale. Sorry, Heroes for Sale. So this is his style here.
Oh, okay.
And so he worked with Gordon Rennie. He worked.
It reminds
with,
me of Judge Judd.
Simon Beasley, right? And a very young artist, passed away very young, but he did his own Lobo, you know.
Oh, okay.
So it's with him, and people will be searching his name really quick once Lobo starts, hitting the once again, But like he used to work for 2000 AD and stuff at a very young age, like in his 20s, and because he was just so thing. And there's there's actually a store called Illicit where his own work is being sold. So yeah, looking at the line work there, I mean that's awesome, man. So tell us about working with the line work before we go into the next phase of with tattooing and stuff.
So as far as what part do you want me to talk about the
we're talking about choosing your style, right? So working with a line, and when did you arrive that this is the the thickness of this is how your art is going to look?
So that's where I get into what style am I going to use, but one of my line influences was MC Escher. I don't know if you ever looked at MC Escher with the he's got a bunch of famous ones with the staircases that go upside down and around, and then you're like, how does that even work? Coop was an influence. What I'll do is I'll take this off and then get just the line work going. Maybe you can see how that goes. I use a million layers here. This is for Warren Brown, Lunchbox Warren. If you see him around, he commissioned me to do his character Marv. And this is for his comic book Sig and Joe.
Right.
I'll take all these layers off and we'll just get to the lines. So, on this one here, I decided, I do want to do more of a comic booky style,
Slow down a bit there. Yeah, slow down a bit. Go back again to the original, and then so people can actually see the process. A lot of people think just because you're doing freaking digital, there isn't there's a long process to actually getting to where you want to get to, right?
Right. This is where I talk about the receipts. Did AI do it? Well, no, because this is the receipts here. I got a bunch of layers. So first I'll start off with the lines. That's what I start out with. I start out with a pencil sketch, actually, and I don't have the pencil sketch in here, but I start out with the lines, and I do that, and I'll zoom out. I'll even, it'll be a little time lapse even here for you, and then I'll start flatting things. Let's see. Here's the lines. Here's the super dark lines. How I'll get that line variation. I'll push that line variation even farther, and I did a little time in a college called Kendall College of Art and Design in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And there was a very good drawing instructor there, and she talked heavily about line weight variation and how what you want your lines to do is to give a sense of gravity all of its own. And so I push that pretty far sometimes, and that kind of shows it here, where I think people would see even better if I had a white background or I do have the sketch, actually.
Look at that. So can you remove the line layer, please?
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
So here's the sketch that I came up off of there, right off of my paper.
Yeah.
I'll zoom in a little bit, from pencil.
I didn't realize there was a face on there, dude. That looks awesome.
Yeah. It's so in the comic book, this character Marv is like a alien with one eyeball, and he's a little bit smaller of a dude.
Yeah.
He's got a robot that is getting kind of sexually assaulted, low key sexually assaulted by these other aliens, and he's telling them, you better apologize to my robot. And they're like, I'm not going to apologize to a robot. And they get into a fight and he knocks the guy's teeth out. So I thought it was a good fitting scene for a sticker to have that moment captured where he's like, apologize, and he's knocking the dude's teeth out. They're again inspired by the Mary Machine Gun picture just recently. How she's got the knife up and she's smiling into the knife reflection, you know. And I'm like, you know, why can't I should do that with Marv's eyeball, where you could see the dude in his eyeball. And
go down a bit. Go up a bit. Yeah, there you go. No, up. There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a vestiges of that. When I start putting on these layers, you'll see them come back again. And so yeah, it's a pencil sketch there. I probably sent him 5 concepts of the different characters, and we both kind of really liked this Marv here. Because it was the most dynamic. So then after that, then I'll put some lines down, you know, and start putting on flat, you know. Because
you're starting, like, you got your pencil sketch, now you got clearing up, you know, like what you don't want, what you want to emphasize on, and make that stand out a bit more, right?
Yep. I'm starting to be like, okay, here's the deep stuff. I already got some line variation, like under his eyebrow, you know, and under his chin, you know, under the under the wrench and the stuff like that. That's got a little bit of line variation already, so it kind of starts furthering the shadow effect. Then I'll even take it even a little bit farther, because sometimes I wonder if people are going to like what I do or not. So I put another layer on and go a little bit farther with it. And I actually did that later on in the process, because sometimes a thicker line will actually clean up if I do a messy flat. I mean, here's a quick version of it, really thick, you know, and all done.
And then your coloring process is really making it pop out, you know, and this is what I kind of like really enjoy about watching the art process, is like seeing, you know, you got the flats, now you're doing the tones, now you're doing the shadows, and now you really, bringing it to life. Now it's more 3D. Now it's not just a 2D image, you know?
It's starting to just put more depth in with shadow and color. You know, because you could do it with just black, but it's better, you know. Phil Leon said it to me one time earlier, and I'm like, I agree. You gotta, you know, sometimes you do it with a richness of color, you know. It's not, it really just makes it pop out. Like this I mean, you know, so I started doing it with richness of color in different aspects. You know, the word bubble here, I didn't just do it white. I wanted, you know, because I know it's going to be on a white background of sticker, possibly. So, you know,
and you really want, you know, you want to bring your A game to it as well, because you want your work to live, right? And there's an aspect to like art where you want it not just to be a 2D on flat on, you know, on an image, you know, whatever format or whatever paper or plastic, whatever it's using, but you want it to be lifting off that to really impress people, you know.
And you know, with these projects, you know, they're, you know, I think one of them was like, you know, you don't have to go that far, it's just a sticker. And I'm like, you know, I want to push it that far. I want to really slay it, so the next person is like, wow, I definitely want to get this guy. You know, I don't want to be on the fence of whether I want to get hired or not.
But every piece you're doing is an what is it called? Like, not evidence, but
it's a testament almost.
That's the word. Testament to your last piece of work. And so you don't want to be stuck in your last piece of work. You want to start next piece of work. So this is the latest thing I've done. This is what my quality of work is at. So when people see this work, then they go, right. So this is the kind of where he's at right now. That's what I want. I don't want what he was yesterday. I want what his work is today. And this is who you are today, right? Someone who's really putting your what they call A game into it, right? If you're a sports person, but you're bringing your most artistic level and quality of work to each piece going forward. And now you see now from like, you know, how far you've gotten from just that one image to apologize to further up to where you got now, right? Go back to the last bit. So where's your final image on this? Your final, you know.
So this is the final image as we're talking now. You know, it's actually a transparent background that we can send a sticker or a t-shirt or poster or whatever. You know, I talked to him because this is his end game is he wanted a sticker, you know,
right.
Where, you know, it doesn't matter to me or my computer processing unit, you know, in my graphics card. It doesn't matter if I do it small or big. So I might as well do it pretty big.
Yeah.
You know, I did the resolution pretty big. Like it's still crispy even up to that. I think the file size is 8,000 by let me see here. 8,667 pixels by 6,500 with 150 resolution, you know, so it's pretty decent, you know. The dimensions are 43 inches by So
like, I mean, I work at about 600 DPI. I mean, like whatever pixel, you know, whatever it is. But like that, you're working at 8,000. That's quite massive. And I mean, you got to have a lot of RAM on your computer, right?
I got 32 gigabytes on this one.
Yeah, I think I've got like 12 or something. So I need to upgrade soon when I get some savings done. But yeah, man, that's pretty cool because you are producing stuff at a higher level of resolution, you know, or pixel, because like I said, then you can make whatever you want out of it, like t-shirt prints, you know, put it back on comics, put on posters, put on stickers. Right. And I think a lot of people don't realize that as an artist, where you stand with the quality of work you put out to people, you know, and all that. And if you really think about it, you have a 32 gig computer, you know, RAM, right? Processor, and that costs a lot of money. And so, and I think it's a really strange, like people don't realize the cost that goes into producing the good art that you want. And they think, oh, it's just digital, so it's not going to be that, you know, not that much money worth putting into. But just think about how much it will cost for a RAM right now, right? Because there's a lot of like the whole NVIDIA thing. There's like they didn't produce enough, or somebody bought up a whole bunch.
Well, and I was they were like Bitcoin mining and things like that. So people were grabbing up all kinds of computer resources. I got into this computer at a really lucky time, like right before lockdowns, is when I knew that I was not going to tattoo anymore. And I had only a limited time to jump back onto a new game. And I knew digital was going to be part of my process. I was starting to get into making. I actually made a art gallery down in the little town that I was at. I got in with a company that they were going to support an art gallery that helped the developmentally disabled to out their wares. You know, they had like a, you know, it's kind of like a community-based program, and they would they fostered jobs and socialization for the mentally slower people, you know what I mean? And then so they wanted to have a way to socialize them and get them projects and have a gallery basically to show off their artworks and stuff. And they brought me on board because I came with a certain amount of followers and a certain amount of experience. I knew how to run a Shopify. They wanted that in their plan as well. And which that's way you're showing my Shopify right now. So thank you. So I had a layout of skills that they kind of liked, and I knew that they were, even though they were saying that they were high budget, I knew that they weren't. So I had to get my own computer so I could do the things that I needed. You know, no matter what, you always got to take care of yourself anyway. So I looked into it and what the requirements of um, a good digital computer would be, you know, in the
Yeah.
modern age, and it said 16 gigabytes of RAM and a graphics card. So I just doubled it. I doubled my numbers if I could.
Yeah.
And at the point in time, I did. I was able to get that going. I got this and the Huion with some lockdown money. You know, um,
Mm.
luckily I was one of the lucky ones that it did come through with my situation. So I got some of that, and you know, there's like a little bit of unemployment at that same time. So um, I invested into myself, um, and
Right. So what was the process, you know, when you were doing this gallery thing? Because like, I mean, I do, you know, like a convention right here, and that's my kind of like trying to get kids into art and stuff, and we have our own galleries and stuff. But
mhm.
uh, you know, I'm not going to try to dox where you live and stuff, but like, what was the process with the, you know, whoever was running this community event? Uh, what was that like, you know, working with the community for this sort of thing?
Well, so it was like it's a nonprofit organization, and basically it was like a bunch of businessmen that were running their money through the the project, and it really is to help the development and disabled. So I don't want to say it was like any scheme or anything,
Yeah.
um, but it was troublesome because the manager they had at the time was just, I don't know. We did butt heads, and it didn't work out for very long. But it was definitely a fun experience. Partly the problem that we had was as soon as I opened the thing, I got, you know, I had a lot of community help with cause the artists in the area. Just definitely, they knew me, and they're all on board to bring on my projects.
Yeah.
I had I had all the ideas came from ideas I had previously when I had my tattoo shop. Um, we would have art nights at the tattoo shop, and
Right.
that was pretty cool. And so we actually had an opportunity to get the place next to us for cheap rent. Like it was like $500 a month. We were going to get this
Mm.
nice little section of the building with a frontage. So I had drum up a scheme of having an art collective, and the art collective. You know, I figured if we had 5 key holders, each of us paying $100 a month rent, we could all just come and go as we wanted. We could have a front desk that offered services, and we could
Mm.
have a gallery. Like my tattoo shop in the front was a gallery, so that was my, you know, gallery experience. Besides that old punk store that I had uh,
Yeah.
use of back in the day, you know, so I was selling art out of my tattoo shop as well. But I figured we could have gallery, we could have art services, we could have our own little studio there,
Mm.
things like that. But I just never got it running because I couldn't find 5 artists with, you know, 4 artists with $100 extra a month to put on a studio. They just, they just didn't. You know, I had 3 of them that were going to come through for me, but it just wasn't economically viable at the time. So, all these ideas, when the nonprofit approached me as for the job, I had all the ideas already set in place. You know,
Right.
I wanted to offer shipping and fulfillment. You know, not, you know, I don't even want to say it's unlike the July thing of doing things. You know,
Yeah.
shipping and fulfillment is a need in the community where some artists don't know how to do it. They don't know how to box up their
Sure.
painting and send it. You know, they
But
might
that's
have.
where like, but that's where someone like you who's dealt with
Mhm.
galleries, dealt with the way you've done things, your experience, right? Because
Yep.
I think a lot of people don't realize that there are very smart people already doing all this stuff already, you know,
Hmm.
who are part of this comic book scenes and have been part of for decades, right?
Yep.
The idea that like somebody saying, I am the one who's like gonna do this, and like I'm like thinking, dude, people have been doing this for 30 odd years, you
Yep.
know. It just feels like
Yep.
just disingenuous, and it's kind of like trying to focus everybody's attention on you when you know already 100% your brain that this comic book industry, which is the indie comics, has been around for decades, You know,
Mm-hmm.
you even go back to the 70s, you know, with the zines thing, you know, with I'm reminded of those guys who used to do like the Freak Brothers, right? That sort of thing, you know, that sort of art. You know, you just drop off little zines on the counter of somebody's, you know, shop, you know, and that's way of distribution. Just hey,
Mm-hmm.
can you hold this? And but I do understand there's a lot of work that goes into shipping and you know, but that is not
Well,
the
and
art. 99.9% is creating the artwork itself, you know,
mm-hmm.
and
Well,
that's
and
what you
so
know.
my whole idea with ArtVictim comes from that. Even is that us as artists, we have 1,000 jobs. We're doing
Yeah,
the work itself. We're
yeah.
getting the supply. We're shipping it out. We're marketing it to the people. We're customer service representatives. You know, we have a
Oh
thousand
hell yeah,
jobs,
yeah.
and it's stressful. Some people are not good. You know, I'm still not even good with business. You know, taxes and all that stuff that comes along
Yeah,
with
don't
it. You
remind
know,
me, dude. I've got to do next month. I'm waiting for my tax returns from next month, and I'm going. That's going to help me put out some money towards my artist next month, right?
right.
Because
What is marketing SEO? What is this? What is that? How do you get shown? You know, it's 1,000 different things. If you could have a business that helps you to do that, a lot of
yeah,
artists would love it. You know, a lot of artists would love if they could just hire a manager to do that.
mm,
Or so that's where I started refining some of my art victim ideas in that business. You know, because basically I wanted to offer a place that anybody could sell, whether they were, you know, that was, I mean, that's another thing is gatekeeping of your local, you know, who hasn't have a story of gatekeeping of their local gallery, you know, where you go
oh,
in and they're just like, oh, we don't like that. We don't want it on our wall, you know?
or the worst thing, and this is one
Yeah.
that is as someone who's got a friggin' degree in art, yet their
Yeah.
art is
Elitists.
utterly trash, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and they get to be in the gallery because they have a degree behind their name or a
Right. Or
doctorate,
they're wine and cheesing it with the
hobnobbing, yeah,
yeah, they're hobnobbing. You know, a lot of what I've noticed in some of the, especially, you know, I got a small community that I had experience with. They're more like trying to take the grant money from the government to do wine and cheese parties with their
yeah,
friends, bring in their friends'
yeah,
uh, daughters to get the money off of the mural job or whatever. And it's
yeah.
just like they're keeping it in the family. You know, that's what they're doing. They don't want
And
to
90%
foster
of the
the,
time, like I would say 60% of the time, that's what happens for
mm-hmm.
every sort of situation like that.
Yeah. So I
Like for
wanted to
me, like
build
I
a,
mean, I did an event about 2 years ago, and you know how much money I ended up?
hmm,
Less than all my other guys
right, because you're
because I
given,
paid
you
it
know.
all out to them. Like we had something like about uh 12 or 13 grand come in. I ended up with like less than everybody else because they got paid by the hour. I got paid by the lump sum, you know, and
Yep.
so you know, and I found that because a lot of people don't realize how it works, so they think you know you know I'm just in it for myself. But like I realize that like if you talk to any of my my friends and stuff, they'll tell you that I put more effort into what I do than I'm like you, right? In this sense, like I put more effort into the people, people around me than for myself because I notice that what you're doing here with this whole community thing, I think it's, and this is why I want to speak on the community thing, like working with the community thing, because that's what I do as well, and have for the last 5 years. But a lot of the funding is held up by the actual administration side of things, and because like you said it's who you know and how to keep it in your bring your sister, your child into work on it, and now you got to pay that child, and now it's still in and it's weird to see that, and I think it kind of like diminishes the whole idea of like the working artist, looking after the artist who's doing the work.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, and so after I left, a lot of my implements have been taken down because
Mm,
the local one of the local galleries did take over my ex gallery, and they just started. So I just noticed that a lot of the artist helping programs are gone. Like
yeah,
now you have to have a membership, so
right,
now you have to pay to be in a membership to possibly have your art into the gallery, or they're not going to have it because they don't like it. You know, where before a kid could come in, you know, I had a group of kids that came in after school, and they would come in and they would be like, "Hey, I got a new picture. Could I put it up? Could I put it in the $5 rack?" You know, and so these kids were able to sell what they did that day without having any money into it, you know, and then we would take a small cut. It was like 30%. And then, you know, so a piece of paper could make this kid their comic book money, basically.
Yeah.
And so it was and then I wouldn't gatekeep what they wanted to put up, whether it was art or not. It wasn't for me to say. If they thought it was cool enough, you know, we had a limit in the rack. You could only have like, you know, I can't remember if it was like 5 or 3 pieces. I think it was 5 because we didn't have it filled up yet. But, you know, once you got to that limit, then you had to swap it out. It wasn't a hard thing. You know, anyone could put something on the wall if it was safe for work, you know, who am I to say that it wasn't the coolest thing ever or not? You know, we had enough good artists that like something that wasn't as favorable would kind of just you know, it didn't look junky or nothing. It was a good looking gallery. We had a fun time. Then, you know, that way also, like there's a couple people that they're like, I don't know how to ship this. Can you ship this for me? And then I was like, yeah, I'll tape it up. You know, here's some boxes if you want to put it in the box with me or whatever. Or they'd come in and use the tables and use the equipment. So it was definitely a fun time having a community-based, actually an artist-based gallery. And then the whole thing that, you know, my manager was like, how do we fund this? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you don't realize that you have an artist as your worker. So here, you know, you're complaining about us not making money or anything today. Well, during that time, I just made you 3 paintings on the clock. You know, boom, there's $100, $50, whatever. Once those sell, you just paid me $15 for that, you know?
Yeah.
So that was part of the thing, is that you're dealing with people that don't know art, trying to micromanage the manager. And that was kind of hard. And at the end I was like, you know, there's 2 things that you didn't do for me that I told you at the beginning I needed. I needed somebody to do the bookwork, and then I needed a good computer. That's all I really needed. And then I needed COVID not to happen, but that's a different story. You know, that you can't help that.
Yeah. I think like a lot of people don't realize how COVID really, you know, for a part there and the negative side, ruined projects going forward, but also kickstarted a lot of projects because people finally had time. And I've spoken to, you know, like Josh Mack and Aaron Mack from Singaporean brothers who live in Australia, you know, who basically just kickstarted a comic book during, you know, I mean, started working on a comic book and with a local artist because of COVID. They were like, what are we going to do? We can't go out and friggin' play music, you know, we can't go gig, but we have an idea about a biography, right? A graphic novel based on a actual real event, you know, a crime that happened. And they actually went out and did that. And I'm quite, you know, because these guys never thought about doing it until they were stuck, you know. And even though we say that COVID stopped a lot of things, I mean, COVID stopped me from like producing my magazine, my comic book magazine, you know, Sunspot. And so now that's digital because I was going to put it up and I was like, well, how the hell am I going to ship this out once it's funded when there's no shipping and nobody's working? And so I pulled it off. This was in 2019 going to 2020. And so, you know, we had a freaking amazing magazine ready to go out, and it couldn't go out because I don't know how to send it out once it got printed. So now we're selling it digitally, right? So but COVID made us think outside the box really quickly. If you're creative, you know, if you're an artist, like it made galleries go, you know what? We've been sitting out and not doing anything online. Now maybe this is what we'll do now. We'll sell our work online. Now, so what was it like for you going into that whole process of, 2+ years of being, pushed down to not being able to get into stores and stuff like that, get out there and
so
people.
I had the gallery that was just started, and then lockdowns here happened, and we did have a time where we were just not allowed to work even at the gallery. Like, I was not even allowed to go into the gallery. Then after a while, I was able to go in and like put stuff up on the walls and stuff and paint and stuff. But for me, that's so right then is when I got that computer. I got this computer here and my tablet. So I just I was like, okay, let's start streaming again, and let's launch. When I figured out that ArtVictim, the name, was not as cringy as I thought it could be. I was like, is it cringy? You know what I mean? I didn't know how people were gonna react to the name even. I resonated with it because I felt like I was a victim of my own circumstances. I went down a path that I didn't know ended in a cliff. With tattooing being done, I was like, now what do I do? I'm not able to even make any money. I went down there. I went a long way, but the problem is I went the wrong way. You know what I mean? And then and then I was gonna get a tattoo at one time that said "Victims Aren't We All" from the movie Crow. If you remember the movie Crow.
Yeah.
It says "Victims Aren't We All," and then I just changed it to "Art Victims Aren't We All." Because then I always said then all the analogies would come up. I'd see a bad tattoo that said the wrong spelling, and I'm like, oh, they're an art victim. They really wanted that tattoo so bad that they didn't research their artist. Now they got a crappy tattoo. Oh, art victim. They're looking at the art more than they are the lettering or whatever. So there's all these analogies that came out, but I didn't know if the name was going to be cringy. So then I started up my Twitch channel, and I just like I do, I just hung out with my favorites on Twitch, and then people would say, "Oh, that's a neat name." The youngers, they'd be like, "Oh, that's a cool name." It just sounded street to people, and I was like, "Okay, let's go." So then I launched my Shopify and my Twitch channel basically here at the same time, and started streaming. And I got a hold of a good stream team, I call it. There's just a good group of creatives that were also in lockdowns, and we would just bounce around in Discords. And every time one of us was streaming, or if we were all streaming or whatever, we would just leave a tab up for our buddies running. Even if we didn't watch them, we would kind of half watch them, and we'd support each other. And I got leveled up to affiliate within a month, which I felt was pretty fast. Just because I got a good group of creatives that really just supported each other. Pete 11717 is in one of those guys I would support. I started hanging out with some different comic book groups and stuff like that as well. My friend was pulling me into comic book groups, and that's where I met Niobe and that. I wasn't quite big with them yet. I was just kind of watching. Because there's some, in comic books world, you probably started to realize too, there's some cringy groups that you want to stay away from, and that's what I decided. And then, so I also had my microcosm of Twitch anyways, so I didn't really need anything else. You know what I mean? I didn't really need anything. So I had a good go around. I had enough clients from my old tattoo jobs that wanted me to still draw their art. So I'd do commissions online streaming as I was doing that's going to be a sticker soon. That's on a buddy who has since passed away, but that's definitely an influential dude right there. That's my friend Bub. So rest in peace.
I had a conversation about 2 years ago or something. We did an event where we had tattoos at our selling pop art based on their work, and I was like saying, is there any way my freaking dark skin can be lightened so I could get color of my skin, right? And they said there isn't, and I was bummed out. But I love color tattoos, and I love the way it pops on skin. And I've been a tattoo fan forever, right? Like, I got this like 30 odd years ago, right?
Oh, okay.
Like 30, like, no, it was 21st. So 33 years ago, I got this done. It's a native, North American, piece of tattoo that I saw on a lady's back. And then I went and did my own bits to it. And it's quite meaningful. And I'm not going to get into personal things of that. But, this is like 30 years ago. And I was actually designing my own sort of like tribalistic, calendar type art, so I could think. And then one of the persons said, hey, why don't you put this out as tattoos and as a calendar thing? But I lost that, right? It was just this beautiful, tribal, neo-tribal style that I have. And talking about that, I'm going to show you something in the sense of what I do as an artist, right? And I'm not sure if we talked about this before, but for those people, who are new to this channel, this is what I do because I don't do I don't do drawings that often because I have artists who do that for us with the comics, but I do ceramics.
Oh, that's neat,
I
man.
do what is called, what is called what I call neo-tribal, right? My new tribal style, which is I take, kind of like patterns from the past. This is like the Koru from New Zealand, indigenous people, the Maori. But then I sort of like modernize it. So I decided to do for me, I've only done about 4 of these, but like I'm going to do 24 of these as balls. They're like hollow, right?
Okay.
So they're quite heavy. So, and then these are clay sculptures. So then I'll go and get raku on them because I love raku, and I've always loved the oil, the spontaneous coloring that comes from raku, the glaze and ceramics. So you would have no idea, when you put it in there and you bring it out and put it into rubbish and paper to cool it down, the patterns are friggin' spontaneous. So you have no idea what color. And it's the most gorgeous thing in the world. But these are quite heavy. So
it'd be surreal.
Locally people can buy it, but these are like about 2 kgs right here. But then for me, I was thinking like, how do I send, like for art has to be, I love to see my art everywhere, all over the world, and I have got my paintings all over the world. So one of the things I was thinking, like, well, because and this is something that artists don't think about sometimes, right? Comic artists do, because comic art is pop, right? And we know how to how it works for us. But if you're a sculptor or someone who does lots of big paintings, a lot of people are very not wise to the fact that you can do prints. You can slim it down, and now you can set it out for about $3.50 to the rest of the country, or $5-10 to the rest of the world, because they're print. And now you can make money. And so the whole idea of I hate the terminology of the poor artist, right? So even if you're a comic book artist, you can sell your original artwork, even if you're working with someone on a comic book, and you can make money on the back of that again, right? So if you're struggling to earn a living from your comic book because it's taking 6 months before it gets to Kickstarter, you can actually go and talk to your writer and creator and say, hey, can I sell a bit of this work out? If they're nice, if they understand what's the situation, they'll go, yeah, man, go do it. Go get to an event.
Well, some of those deals are like that. This Warren Brown, I just put him in the StreamYard chat, but he definitely, I don't necessarily, like, if I'm doing a commission job for a comic book artist, I don't necessarily think that's my art anymore to be able to shill and sell. But Warren Brown, he made a point of telling me, like, dude, I want you to be able to take these and make prints of them and have them on your table if you want and stuff. And that was huge to me because that makes me double money now. I can take that. I can take that artwork of his Marv, and that is a sellable thing. It also, what it does to me is it makes me more invested in that piece of artwork, where I'm going to even do a little bit better because I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool now. This is cool for me now even. Not that I wouldn't do that good of work anyways, but I'm just like, now I get to sell it. And then so I was talking with him. Not only that, but it markets him. It's going to market him now because I'm going to put it on my table. I'm going to put his stickers in this comic book on my table.
Yeah.
He's actually he said he's gonna hire me for a comic book cover here soon.
Yeah.
So maybe in a couple months we might see that. And if I get some copies of that, then I'm gonna put that on my table, because why
Yeah.
wouldn't I? That's gonna now it's gonna promote his book twice as much, because he's got more people invested. One of my big theories about art in the last little while, because I started noticing it with my Twitch channel, is who is my client? Is my
Right.
client the soccer mom at home? I mean, sometimes, but
Yeah.
a lot of my fans are artists themselves.
Right.
Here you are, you're an artist, and you got me on your show.
Yeah.
That's cool to me. That's Niobe is, he's a writer, and he's an artist. Those artists are the ones that are searching me out, and they're the ones that are hitting like on my Facebooks.
Yeah.
They're hitting likes on my Instagrams. It's not necessarily the normies out there. So as an artist myself, I looked at them like, sometimes creators are the big fans. So
Yeah.
that's where Lunchbox is doing it right. As far as I'm concerned, is he's making me a fan of his work, and
Yeah.
giving me the free reign to market it. And it's just going to exponentiate that way. I feel, for him and for anyone that does that.
Well, the other side of all this coin, whoops, wrong one. The other side of all this coin is that we as artists understand the artist mindset. We know what is needed. We know
Exactly.
how to help each other, because we're going through the same process ourselves.
Yep.
Right.
We respect
I
the
mean,
work that went into it.
yeah. And so, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the poor artist thing really pisses me off, is because the only reason an artist is poor is because they don't know how to network. They don't know how to, like, help themselves. They haven't gone and sat down and done a month-long course, and online course. You can easily do an online course right now for free, just by watching YouTube videos on how to market yourself. A lot of people just sit at home and do their drawings and go send it to the creator, the artist, and that's all they do. They don't jump online and say, hey, I'm working with this person, this is the work, and promote it.
Well, right? And some of them, like, and the experience I had especially, is some people are locked into a little area. They're locked into a little area. They're not getting out to conventions. They only have, like me again, now that I'm restarting with ArtVictim, I actually got rid of all my old fans. There's a lot of cringy politics there. I didn't like some of the politics that I was seeing, so I got rid of too many fans. Just to be honest, I kind of killed my fan base. So, and I was like, I'm just going to start ArtVictim up with more people that are organic to what I'm trying to sell here. There's a lot of people that were not letting me out of the tattoo box, so that was part of it. They weren't letting me move on. They wouldn't follow any new project. So so I just kind of started over. So I kind of got this that building from scratch again. I kind of got those lessons all again of how to build your brand from zero. And I'll probably do some tutorials if I ever make it on how to build your brand from zero. But that's where I understand that some kids, some people just don't have that ability because they don't have the reach. They're struggling because they're putting it out to their friends and family. Their friends and
not
family
to anybody else, right?
Their friends and family aren't sharing it. And they're not getting out of their room, because they're introverts. So that's why they struggle so hard. Where what I recommend to people to do is get out into your community, get onto streams, go to conventions, get out of your hometown. That's for sure. Put a QR code on your table, give promotionals for free here and there, do share art. Like if somebody, like streamers especially, like they'll have, do this in your own style, right? Do this in your own style. You do a couple of those, you get some fans. You do a couple of do this character, or do a couple fan arts, and you automatically get somebody noticing you. the famous Niobe story that I'll tell with getting noticed there is it was basically last year at New Year's. I kind of, I've been a fan for a while, and just kind of a normal chatter, nobody even really noticing or nothing, or just, every now and then you get put up on the screen as like, oh, that's a cool comment. Well, then during that time, it was like I don't know if it was in between his Kickstarters or whatever. I just felt like I wanted to tip him out. I enjoyed the stream. I didn't have any money to buy his book or anything at that moment or whatever. I just felt like, I had a little bit of studio time that I didn't normally have. So I made those Niobe dancing girls, the ones that are headbanging. And I just approached him on Twitter and said, hey, I got some fan art for you. I think you'll like it, and then I threw him that sticker and he was like, epic, dude, epic, and then he's like, what about that other one? Could you do the other one? And then within 3 days, I think I did the other Niobe pom-pom girl, and I sent it to him and he's like, that's crazy. That's cool. And then he's like, they invited me on the stream. And so it's like, sometimes you say you don't want to do things for exposure, right? If somebody approaches you and you're like, well, you'll get exposure. It's half true and half it is and it isn't, right? You don't want to always do things for exposure, but there's a thing in tattooing I said sometimes, because I didn't do all my tattoos for money either. Sometimes I'd throw them a bone, throw somebody a bone or whatever. And I'd always say, sometimes you do it for the fortune and sometimes you do it for the fame. So, sometimes, and then not only that, but just organically, you're not doing it. I didn't do it to get noticed. I didn't do it to do that or anything. I did it because I wanted to tip out a great streamer that I endorse. And I wanted to do something cool. I wanted to finally do something cool. And nobody even knew that I could do it. So it's not like they're going to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then after I did, and it's been immortalized on stream ever since, now it's got a little bit of buzz about it. Now they're like, okay, who's this ArtVictim guy?
Right.
So that's another thing in the process where I tell people that they should do. You should get your name out there. And
but the thing here is, right, because of that, now you're getting people coming to you for art, to pay you for work, to get, that's why I say the whole myth of like a friggin', the people who like victim themselves into like, oh, I'm a poor artist. I got no, but it's such a struggle to get. Dude, if you're there because you're not willing to be part of something and be part of the, how to market yourself,
Well, it's all those inspirationals.
People are coming to you, right?
Yep.
Because
it's all those. It's all those inspirationals, and they'll tell you true. You got to jump out of your box to get into the fray. You got to you got to risk it for the biscuit. You got to you got to get out of your room a little bit to get noticed, and you can't just stay in your little box and get noticed that way. It's not going to work. You do have to, you have to be seen to get noticed, kind of thing.
Right.
And you have to do the work, and you got to stay consistent. See, that was my problem back then. I say I did that a year ago, and I would have been ready to do all of this and be all that a year ago. But after those Niobe pom-poms and that Niobe cartoon, I lost my studio again. I was kind of living at my, I was living out of my van basically. And my friend, the studio I was at, my friend lives at one of those apartment complexes. I don't know if you guys got those there, but they're apartment complexes, and really you can only have the people that are living there live there. You can't bring in extras, So I got basically caught after 2 weeks of, living there and working 24/7 out of the room. And they were like, you can't have boarders living at your apartment. So I had to kind of move on, and I just had a studio problem after studio problem, and I couldn't keep it consistent. So luckily I landed here in Detroit recently, and I do have heat. I do have stable living condition and stable internet. My roommates are pretty cool. So I've been able to stay consistent over the last 4 months, and that's really why I feel like I'm blowing up a little bit. and it's because
You are. I mean, and you know, there's no doubt because I kind of want a piece from you as well. And you know, I haven't mentioned this before until now because I've been thinking about it, right? Because
I wanted to do a fan art. I was going to send you some fan art because I love your book. I love your book, and I mean, you've seen some of my art and that old Deviant art stuff where I got the masks with the biomechanical coming out of the back of the head.
Yeah. So you're talking about. Let me just bring this up. Since I've got this here. Where are we? Because this is our biggest project. It's like I thought there was just going to be a little comic book going out, but it's turning into, and that's why we're taking so much time with this as well. It's like Robot Nation is, you know, it's becoming a huge friggin' thing. I've got artists like coming in, and you know, we'd love to do a piece like this. You know, we'd like to do something for you here, and out of the, you know, like seriously, I've got my own artists are going, yeah, we want to put something in, and I'm like, I said, would you like to promote your art because your book's going to come up soon, and you know what? Because your book's going to come up soon, how about we promote your art style now in this book, and then when it's your turn, the other artists will do the same for you, because this is like about networking and promoting, you know, helping each other get your book noticed out there.
It's making your artists into fans, you know, because they're personally invested in it now. You know, they're like, oh, my book, my art's in there, you know, that's awesome. You know, and then they're a fan of the whole book, you know, and just the whole idea of your book was great. I just I liked it. You know, I bought one.
Yeah. So let me, where are you, Joachim? Okay, so Joachim, right, so this is, you know, we're talking about like how people, you know, have their own ideas on what they want to bring to the, you know, to a project. And I just said, can you do something for us? And within like 24 hours, 48 hours, he'd already done something, you know, and then we decided to release this as a project just for the stores.
Oh, that's cool.
And then he's, you know, and so like just for the stores, because this is it's a one shot, right? It's an ongoing, but it's a one shot first issue. And then I looked at it and I said, you know, it would be interesting that like, what if because it's a one shot, because I'm doing series, right? So what if I put this out to the stores as a special thing for them, right? Because because I used to be a comic store owner, so I know what it's like to get something special just for the friggin' store. Yeah. And so, you know, as a manager or as an owner of a store, it's great to have a piece of work from somebody that's just for you, right? And I've never had a sports incentive before. For me, like I felt like this would be a great way to get people into knowing who Plunge Studios is, right? As a comic and as a comic producer. And so Joachim, who's my Swedish artist on a comic book called Fantastical Romy, right? Zoolandia series that we're doing. It's a fantasy world, parallel universe thing. But I said, hey, you know, I reached out to him and said, look, I've got this coming up. Would you be interested in that? And he said, yeah. Turns it around within like 28 hours, you know, 40 hours, something like that. Very quick. And and then colored it as well, you know. And I'll show you the uncolored version, right?
Yeah, that's a cover.
So here's the uncolored version, right? And I'm like I'm getting blown away because, you know, this is a guy that's working on a fantasy, you know, universe thing, and he brings out this. And if you look underneath at the bottom here, let me grab you. Like,
yeah, I was noticing that dude hiding under there. He's like a human. He's hiding from the robots or something.
Yeah, and it's like your eye isn't directed to him until you really look. And
no,
like,
it took me a second because I was like, oh, those cool robots, the axe and the thing, and I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, there's a dude hiding under there. He hit him in the color really well.
Yeah, and so then you've got this. So this is there's 25 of these only going to be made for as part of a pack for the comic stores, only for them. But this is the one that we're going to take for Kickstarter, for the Kickstarter backers. So you can see that this is what he calls the bloody version of that. And so,
nice.
You know, so for the Kickstarter, backers, they'll get this version of it. But
I love his artwork.
Yeah, man. I'm like so proud to have someone like, you know, and all my artists, like they come to us and, you know, and I go, well, this is the book I've got. Would you interested in that? Go, yeah, it's not for me. And I'm like, well, what about this one? And so this, you know, Joachim was the book that he's working on right now, Zoolandia, that wasn't supposed to happen until for 5 years down the road.
Hmm.
But I saw his art and I was like, you know what? I'll yeah. Would you be interested? He goes, yeah. And I went, shit, now I got to go and finish the script. Right. So I hadn't finished the script because I only written about 5 pages of it. And then I had to go and finish like about 20 odd pages more of it. And so, you know, we've got that. And then, so we had another one of our artists who's a manga artist, and he did this one here. Where are you, Tomas? So this is Tomas's work, you know, coming into this. And he was just like, I'm thinking of this. And I said, yeah, cool. You just do whatever you think is going to be working for this. And so I don't like to hold hands with my artists, because I think, you know, you let them do what they want, right? And let them be creative as you want. So he said, I want to do this. And I said, oh, cool. Okay. I was, you know, I'm just sure, I just know his talent. So I wasn't going to, well, don't do that because I don't, you know. So he did this first, right? He said, this is what I'm looking at. You know,
Nice.
You know, and so he sends me through. I go, yeah, just go for it. He goes, you know, then he goes, does this and so on. And this is the kind of like the final version of it. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I want to color this as well. Like we can put this out like this, but I'm going to color it as flats because it will really pop as flats, right?
Yeah.
And you know, but I'm thinking like, is this something that you'd be interested in, like just doing as a color, rather than me taking time to do it and like, but being able to show your color work as well, you know? You're gonna, you know, you're interested in doing this one, so I'm gonna bring up the link for that, guys, before I finish, because I don't want to be promoting myself with you know, here, because
do it though, because it's great.
So this is the link for the you know, you can buy for $2.99 right now, right? For the black and white version, because the one we've taken to Kickstarter is full color, right?
Oh, that's cool.
So, and it's a one shot, which means if you have to wait 6 months, you don't have to worry about waiting 6 months, because you got the complete story in this right now. And this is why I'm putting all this effort into this out of the blue, because, you know, and everybody's like, I've saw some artwork that came through last night that's like freaking from a very famous person, but he's doing it under pseudonym. So if you get that work, you know, you won't know who it is, whose original work it is, but at least you know you have an original work from that artist, you know. But yeah, so back to you and what it's been like, you know, working and getting all this, you know, sort of like sudden, and I don't mean like that you haven't been popular in your own sort of, you know, area, but I mean, what has it been like working with Niobe and being on the channel and, you know, being part of that sort of like, I don't want to say community, because, you know, it has, you know, negative connotation as well, but part of that kind of like, you know, people who are artists amongst that scene.
Well, it's still up, you know, still happening, you know. I mean, still kind of, people are still getting to know me and stuff, but it's a good scene. I like that, you know, I like that scene versus some of the other ones, just because it is right in the middle. It's like you get the cliff notes of drama. We'll just say that. And then but you know, the thing about Niobe in particular is like Larry knows how to kickstart, and he knows he's been around the block with comic books for a long time, and indie comics especially. And
a decade, right?
He's good with, he knows promotions, it seems, really well. You know, he's always, you know, when he'd come into chat. See, I met him, like I said, during lockdowns. I was kind of being brought in with another crew. They were doing these art streams where they'd bring on an artist. They'd bring on like 3 or 4 artists, right? And then they'd have the art of war is what they called it. And they would have one guy named Dreaded Dinosaur. He was, a lot of the times, he was like the grand master, and he'd give you like a prompt, right? And he's like, today we're going to draw gaijus, you know? And then so we would all just sit there and talk about our little history or talk about nerd stuff and draw our pictures, right? And then we'd show them off at the end. And I remember Niobe would just come in there and be like, hey guys, you know, just want to say hi and bye type thing, and pop around. And then me taking notes that I as I do of all the artists in my zone, I found his channel, Rebel Gaming, back in the day, and I like the scene. You know, they're kind of inclusive. I like that. I like the inclusiveness. They're, you know, I've heard him say a few times. He's like, I don't care if you're, you know, what you do or whatever, as long as you're a good person. You know, I mean, it's really what they're about. Is they're about a good person. They're about good people. And that's the core of it. That's an old one right there. And
yeah, so we didn't talk about a bit about your art or like your tattooing thing. So let's pop back over to the tattooing thing while we got this up. So
yeah, it's like the middle of the timeline there.
yeah,
That's
so
at the beginning of my tattoo
2006,
career,
right?
really. Yeah, that's yep, that's 2006, 2007, maybe even. Like I would feel I started in 2006, and then so then I had a stint at a tattoo shop, and it was ghetto. Like I'll just say there were 7 artists in that tattoo shop, which I can't believe for one thing, but every single one of them went to prison during, before, or
Holy,
after the time that I knew them in those years. I met my first killer. I had my first gun drawn on me. I saw my first
holy
person
hell! Where was
shoot up.
this at? Like what state? I don't want to know the city.
It's in
What-
Michigan. It was in a little Michigan town, man, and I couldn't even
Right.
believe that it was in that town. But it was just, it would, tattooing is stereotypical. It really does bring out the rock and roll in people. Because here's the thing: is that you can take an artist who didn't make money before, right? And he's just drawing skulls on the table, drinking at night, right? And he can draw some barbed wire. Okay, you take that guy and you make him so he can make $200-$300 a day, and then right there you got an ego. You got what we call a tattitude, right?
Yeah.
He's got a tattitude, and then he thinks he's like hot shit, and he can be broke tonight and rich tomorrow. So then they're and then every one of those guys, what they would do is they'd make $100 in the shop, 200, and they'd give 100 to the owner, and then they'd go and try to flip it on the street as soon as they got it. And I consider this in my biker. I was kind of biker style back then too, but I knew about Mark Ryden, and that's what this ended up being. Is this dude got into a biker tattoo artist, and well, this girl did. Okay, this was a girl, I remember, and then so she got into this biker tattoo artist, and he just was above his pay grade. He didn't know the artist. He didn't know what he was doing. He admitted, I guess, in the middle of it, that he needed eyeglasses. He was drinking, you know what I mean? And then he just scratched her up, and then she came to me after knowing me for a little bit, and I remember her hiding her arm for a while, and then she's like, I got this tattoo that I just don't even want to show. And then she showed it to me, and I fixed it up for her, and she cried.
I was
cried
like
when
this
I was done.
one of my tattoos. Like I had and it's covered right now, but you can still see the scars, right?
Oh, okay.
And so when I was my really bad period, I used to put out smokes on my my thing, and then this is nothing positive here, guys. This is fucking negative.
No,
So
I mean, it's punk.
So what I did was I went to Fiji, and I had one of my cousin's friends tattoo me. When I came back, like it straight away started getting itchy and sore and septic, and I started getting skin rot, right? And so I went and just myself bought a tattoo machine and just covered it over. And it's gonna someday. I'm not even bothered about fixing my tattoos because I just nobody sees them apart from when I'm doing this. But but I just basically just got to hide the scars and stuff, the rot from it. It was just like peeling off. The skin was just peeling off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll slough right off your body.
Is this what happened with this lady here?
Well, partly. I don't remember saying that she got an infection necessarily. His problem sometimes is he'd go too light, and then he'd have his machine running wrong, and it'd be ratty tatty, and he's either going too light or too dark, too heavy. So it's got some blowouts on all around the whole thing.
I love the fix you did, man.
Well, it worked, right? And then I somewhere in my archives, I do have another version where I went over more, and I think I put the background as kind of like a teal and blue background
Right.
and gave her a
So it
little bit
looks like
more
a
depth
mirror,
and
right?
stuff. Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that what you were going for? Like with the
It's
teal?
it's a Mark Ryden piece, actually. It's the Crying Girl. She's kind of famous.
Oh,
And
right.
once I realized what it was, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Yeah, I mean, I think you'll be able to look up Mark Ryden Crying
Yeah,
Girl,
I'm doing that now. The
and
crying girl.
he's an amazing artist. And then I did not even do it justice, but I did what I could, and I did it. You know, if that's 2006, that's like the beginning year of my career. So, I mean, that's where I was at that point. I always hated the lettering that I did. I don't like the little swirl on the R, especially. But like I said, I did what I did, and I at least made it better. And she loved it. She cried. So she was so happy that it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's the Crying Girl. So I remember taking a good half an hour once I realized what it was, trying to scale it up 1%, scaling it up 0.5%, doing this thing with Photoshop to try to figure out where he sat with the stencil. And I finally got the stencil on where it was supposed to be so that I could kind of like, emulate basically what it was ended up being, so even though I look at that and I'm like, even the one on the right that I did, I'm like right now I'm like, ugh, that's really dated.
Yeah. But if you look at the one on the left, right, the original one, like you worked your ass off trying to fix it to actually where it looks like it.
Yeah,
not
graded on a curve.
Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's where, yeah, she was definitely an art victim that day, right?
Yeah.
And then definitely that's the thing about art victims is you get back up. You don't let it kill you. You learn and you grow.
And that's the thing. So like you've seen that one. Now look at the other work you've done, right?
Well, I didn't do that one. I don't know where that one came from. That one might be like a suggested on there.
Oh, maybe. Okay, let me
If you
find your one. Oh yeah, that's from Grimy. Let me go back.
If you want to see my tattoo work, I could actually show you DeviantArt or not a DeviantArt, but an Instagram.
Right, man. Oh, so this is what we're talking about, like with the you're thinking about like for something for us, right? For the the robot thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's stuff that I used to do way back in the day. Like I was saying, this DeviantArt is eons old. I don't know if I've been back since 2015. There's a Junko Mizuno style piece.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, that's where I kind of get some of my chibi style from.
I would love for you to do something like a homage to Chainsaw Man and robots.
Oh, cool.
Because that'll be awesome, right? Because I love Chainsaw Man, and my most recent manga I bought is from Chainsaw Volume 1. I still haven't read it, but it's it's there. But yeah, man, that'll be something cool. Like do a crossover with like something Mizuno and with your own style, and then parody something else in a robot style. But yeah, I think that's the great thing about why I say I love living in this generation, right? And we'll finish off here. Is like why we like sort of have this amazing interaction that we would probably never have ever right without what we have now, technology we have now. Because I wouldn't probably, unless I was going out to somebody suggested it and searched it, and I was like, because I don't think people realize the last 20 years of what internet has meant to artists, right?
Well, it's amazing, dude. I honestly say I'll probably still never be to New Zealand. So how, if it wasn't for the internet, how would I gain a friend, right? How would I gain this art friend? Otherwise, it's awesome.
And Canada, right? And not Canada, and me with Sweden. I have an artist who I talk to every other day on Skype from Sweden. And then I get into we have our hour and a half hour meeting. I had one on Friday, right, early in the day with Brazil. My artist from Brazil, we're talking face to face from Brazil, and and I'm saying, how do I help you help yourself in your community, right? And stuff like that. And so I think this is why I find it really important to emphasize to people how amazing technology is for us who have never had it prior to 2000. Like I came into like internet around about maybe 97, and that was like backroom friggin' chat rooms, right? Whatever they were called
Oh
back
yeah,
then, and
Yahoo
all you're
chat
doing is like
rooms.
chatting away and having your private one-on-one chats with people, which can be dodgy sometimes, but like you don't know that
Oh,
person.
it was
Oh yes,
really it was really sketchy back then. I remember a friend being on those chat rooms, and he called himself a phone Capone, and they would flip credit cards, and you know,
well,
and I mean, it was dodgy. There was all
yeah,
kinds of scammers and stuff, and you got to watch out for that still everywhere.
yeah,
But now the chat rooms are like VR chat rooms and things like that.
yeah,
So
and this whole Meta thing's really creeping me out as well. That's why I've run away from Meta, because like and earlier on people were like, yeah, go to VR, go Meta, and all this. I'm like thinking, you do realize that like the 90s used to be, late 90s used to be like for chat rooms, right?
mm-hmm.
When you got creeps and stuff, and now young kids are getting into the whole transing thing. Because why? All of a sudden, because of that whole chat, forums and stuff and Discord, where old
Mm-hmm.
creeps are coming in and twisting their minds into thinking, because nothing like that was there.
Well,
And that's why I think,
so and
yeah,
I follow some
sure,
people that do they do 3D models, and they do these hot chicks, and they'll dance in their, and they're dudes. You don't
yeah.
know who I mean,
Well,
it's
there
like
was a movie
Ready
about that,
Player
right?
One.
Yeah,
Ready
there was
Player One is
like even before Player One, right? Even before Player One, there was a movie about that, and I think it was like gosh, I can't remember, but I
well,
think it
there's
might have been
people there's
Replicant or something like that, or something similar,
and
where
there
it
was
was like
a
a big dude in a room, but he's a chick, you know, like the
right. I
whole way
mean,
you use your a clone of yourself, like, and then like the guy, it's a girl, but like you're the big dude, and like this is what freaks me out about our
well,
technology side of
here
that.
I'm a red dude right now on the screen. So you don't know. You don't know who
Yeah,
I am. I could have a voice changer. I don't right now, but you know,
yeah,
um, you know, and in the future, I mean, maybe there will be, like, you can implant your head into a different body and stuff like that. So it's gonna be it's
yeah,
crazy already. It's gonna be crazier. You definitely can't trust. Since 1993, when I realized what Photoshop was,
yeah,
I have not believed a picture that I have seen at its face value since then. Because 93 happened. When 93 happened, I took a girl's head and I stuck it on a different body, just because I was like, look what you can do. And then Britney Spears came out as naked. She was not. That was a fake. And I
yeah,
had to tell people about that. But since then, I didn't believe a picture. Since
yeah.
since a few years ago, I don't believe. I mean, with Star Wars, all these videos, you can't believe video. And now we see President Biden and President Trump like having a barbecue together, and you know,
Yeah,
um, Will Smith eating spaghetti. I mean, like,
but
those videos.
there is
You can't
the
believe anything.
there is the safe side of that, right? There's a humor side of that, but then there is the other side where people can make, like, distort the truth and make you believe that. Like TikTok did that this week, right? Basically, TikTok said, go and call every single, and this is like they pushed it to every single one of their billions or whatever it is subscribers on that platform, and said, go and ring up your friggin' senator, and they could basically use their own software from another country, China, to push their thing to up, what is it called? To thing up the lines, block up the lines,
Right,
phones and all that. I mean, there
right.
could have been some, important course going through,
Yep.
but now you've got basically kids being used by a foreign entity, China, to influence American law and
hmm
policy. And
Well,
that's
and
the,
when is it going to be AI or something? Or deciding, yeah, they want to influence the society one way or another. Like,
Yeah. And this one, I'm
hey,
glad they're banning it, man. I'm
hey
really,
guys,
to be honest,
hey
I'm
guys,
glad they're banning
go
TikTok.
swat this person. You know, if you remember what swatting was, that was, you know, that's why it's, you know, and that's why, yeah, I do like a little anonymity. You know, I've always gone by the Spy. My real art name is the Spy. You know, now it's ArtVictim with my brand and things like that. And my real name's not my real name because I read a book a long time ago called Naked on the Net, and it, you know, and you know, because people have been
hold on for that for a minute. So I was watching somebody the other day, that's actually yesterday, was talking about how, you know, why are you so afraid to hide yourself on the internet and all this? And I'm like, that's very shallow mentality of it, right? You just said that, right? Why you need to hide yourself? Because I live in a safe country. I'm, you know, I'm fine where I am because I'm living in a safe country, you know, and so, and I'm, you know, I'm surrounded by very mature people around me, around my age group, who would be on, you know, out to run to help me if anybody was doing some shit. Also, I've already decided that I need to sort out and ring my police station to let them know what I do online, and if something happens, please call me, and here's my emergency number that you can call to make sure it's okay before somebody starts, you know, getting a bit nuts, because you never know how crazy people are. Look,
no,
this is how crazy people are. A 40-year-old guy can talk to a 13-year-old girl or boy, and it's happened, and have them make them change their sex, cut off a piece of them online. This is how influence.
There's all kinds of things. There was the one girl who was a music influencer. A dude followed her to her, you know, her thing and shot her. You know, people get crazy, and it's not just me, but family members or whatever. Just because, you know, I've had, you know, gone through the tattoo industry, everything that I've ever done has re-emboldened me to keep a little bit of public anonymity between myself and the client or the super fan or the super hater. What started it off? Let's talk about my mom and that whole situation back again, and the punk store, just for a second at least. I know you want to get off here or whatever.
No, I'm good. Let's switch this channel then. Like, let's go to anonymity, right? How do you spell that, man?
Okay. You know, I even have a hard time saying it.
Yeah. And let me see if I can do
being
a spell
being
check on
anonymous.
I got it.
My mom was a social worker, right? That's where she ended up becoming after she left my dad. She was a social worker, and here I am, a punk kid, right? I'm growing up as a punk kid, dressing crazy. You know, I didn't care what I dressed. I had colored hair.
I'm the same, dude. I'm just like you that age. Yeah.
Well, and then I would get crazy where I was, you know, I dress in dresses. I do anything I want, you know, right? You know, I'm a femme cyberpunk. I don't care. So then here, being in that same town, having a mom that is a social worker, I was seeing it on both sides. And I also liked the idea of having a pen name like Richard Bachman. If you know, Richard Bachman is Stephen King.
Yeah, I've got the books right there. Yeah.
Right. So Richard Bachman did it because he wanted to put out some crazy shit and he didn't want any repercussions, right? Until he realized, I don't care. I'll just be myself or whatever. Okay, so I took that and I took my my video game name on, like, you know, my initials are horrible. They're actually BS, you know. So then if I type that into my arcade game when I win a high score, it looks stupid. So I was like, I'm just gonna be the SPY. I don't know. I'll be secret. So then I took that and I made a pen name for my art, and I was always happy about it because here these punks would come in. Some of them would be on Oxycontins or they'd be on these drugs or whatever, and they're like, that stupid Bish took my kids away, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, maybe you should lay off the drugs, man. You know, you can't even stumble in here correctly. I don't care. You know, come in here always feel free to, but I understand if they're like suspect about you raising a kid right now. You're not in your right frame of mind. You know, you got cigarette burns all over yourself and you're like hitting your girlfriend. You know, I know the backside of it, and I know that yeah, the social workers are probably going to take your kids, and they'd be like, yeah, if I found that bitch, I'd fucking hit her. Well, it's good. It's good that my name is Spy and not the same name as my mom, right?
Yeah.
And then on the backside, on the other side, here's these people that are looking at my mom, right? And they're like, how could you have a punk kid like that? That's the way I thought, anyways. They didn't know because I was
Yeah.
just the spy uptown, right? I'm the spy doing whatever I want, whatever, and I'm not giving my mom a bad name, and
No.
I'm not giving my store a bad name by having uh, my mom. So there, that's what started that little bit of like, yeah, being a little bit anonymous is all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt anybody not to know all the things. And then going through the tattoo scene, like I said, I met my first killer. I met my first porn star. I had my first gun drawn on me. I saw my first person shooting up in a bathroom. I was like, this is a weird scene. I had my first biker crew get pissed at me because I was finishing their tattoos. You know what I mean? So the one dude was like, if I find you, if I find you, Spy, I know where, I'll find you. I'm like, okay, sure. You don't even know my real name,
Mm.
so here you go, and then, just over the years, so many things, all those people getting, we were just talking about some of the crews of comic books. There's the one kid that went to the other comic book crew, his warehouse, and was stickering up his warehouse and causing a scene outside of his warehouse. Like, who does that? It's not like like in the tattoo shop days back in the day. If you opened up a store in the wrong part of
If
town,
somebody did that, you'd be coming out with a gun, right?
right? They'd throw a Molotov cocktail through your window. Like, who does that? You don't
Yeah.
do that if you're like in a pizza business.
Yeah.
But there are people that are crazy. There are people that have time on their hands. There are people that are going to repress you, try to do it physically, and that's not cool. So,
Yeah.
if it means that people don't know where I live, they don't know what I look like. I mean, I've been a disgruntled artist before. You know how many
Yeah.
dicks you can stick in people's mouth if they have it open and you get a screenshot. That's not. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stay a little bit out of that type of world. I try to stay away from drama as much as my
Yeah.
name is what it is. I try to stay away from some drama.
Yeah. I mean, as creators, all I care about is to get my book into as many people's hands as I can,
Yeah,
right?
fun.
I should say not one, but as I can. And that's the most important thing to me, because I want artist communication, and I want people to be able to read and enjoy what I create. And you want to see people enjoy and like what you are putting out as well. The last thing you want is to be involved in drama, and the last thing I want is to be involved in drama. Right now somebody's trying to defame me on the other side of the world for something, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, all I care about is making sure that I'm creating the best art I can. And you're on the other side of the world going, how do I do something for you, or how do I do something for Niobe, and how do I,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
for other people, because I want, at the end of the day, you want to earn a living from your artwork, which is what we all want, right? To be able to adequate, lifestyle as an artist and as a creative person.
Yeah, I want
So
art and inspiration. I want good things to happen.
yeah,
On the sly, if I want to be political and be one way or another with my private folks, that's one thing too. But
yeah,
that can be separate. I don't need my brand to
yeah,
be associated with a face. I don't need my brand to be associated with a politic necessarily. Um,
yeah.
you know, I don't. I'll probably get into some light comics. Like a one-shot comic I might do here or
Yeah.
there, but really, I don't want to indemnify my fans either, or do friendly fire, because sometimes that happens. Sometimes you say something and
Mm.
people get hurt about it or whatever. So
Yeah, I spent last month basically looking at what else was going on. Like, that's why I haven't, hung out with Niobe on their channel. Is because I've been looking at everything else that's going on. Because I remember, like, Larry said, like, yeah, no, this thing's happening for like months. And I said, holy shit, I thought it was just this 2 months ago that this started up.
Mm.
No, it's for months. I said, well, let's go and see what that's all about. So I've been like, observing what's going on to kind of get an idea of why this is where we are in this situation with
Mm-hmm.
with indie comics, where everybody's like, instead of like saying, hey, you do your thing and I'll do my thing, everybody's trying to jump on each other's thing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I got really offended with that dude that was, something like, what is it called? Like a bad girl thing. And I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about when it comes to that. And now, rather than staying in your lane, in a sense of like, just go push your art,
Right.
share your links,
It's
promote
kind
yourself.
of that elitist art hate, and then he's white knighting a cause that I don't think he knows what he's talking about. It was about boobs. It was about boobs, too many boobs in comics or whatever. And partly what I was getting at is that I know some women that are some of the lewdest artists out there. With all due respect, like I love it. I love their art. But some of the girls are I told my roommate today, and she's like, I love boobs. She's all about it. And then you're also saying that it's not real. And have you seen the world? Have you seen the world? And what
it's
the body
most of
shapes
people,
out there are crazy.
Yeah, I think most of the people that like I like that, like in that sort of like elitism thing, is like they don't actually have a lot of friends outside of their little clique. It's all about cliques with them, and so they don't know, they haven't been into the world. Like I left home when I was 15, man. Like 16 going on 17. I left home, right? And so I was like chucked into multiculturalism right away, going from my little town of like a couple thousand, where I was like only one or two people who were Indian in my whole town, to where everybody around me, I could like walk about, like a mile and there'll be like Indians there, right? Or if I go to the shopping, they'll be like full of Indians. However, not only Indians, but every other culture, Chinese, Pacific Islander, European. And so early on, I learned just be human, right? Just be a kid, teenager around other teenagers.
That punk store definitely showed me too. You cannot judge a book by its cover. I met a kid that, he thought he was a Nazi punk, but he would say "peace, dude" every single time he left. I met bikers that were nice. I met bikers that were mean. I met hippies that were, assholes. I met hippies that were kind. I met hippies that were credit card hippies and gutter punk. There's all sorts of people left and right. You can't say that a leftist is that way, because there's all kinds of leftists. You can't say a right winger is one way, because there's all sort of people on the right. It's a weird, people are a box of chocolates, and you never know what you're going to get.
Really nuanced, right? Like everybody's very nuanced. And I think that's the great thing about the world, right? Because people are not just black and white. They're colorful, they're nuanced, they have different belief systems, but at the core of every single human being is this: treat me with respect and I will treat you with respect.
Well said. Yeah, 1000%.
And that's it. And I think a lot of people have a lot of disrespect for themselves, and that's how they behave with disrespect to others, and it's just sort of like just a state of being, especially in indie comics, where you're supposed to be the punks of of the whole industry, where you just create and create and create your whatever you love doing, and be out there creating it and sharing it. And I think it's not really, it's sad to see a lot of people biting on each other, doing things behind the back to each other, like putting down other people's work because it's not what they're like.
They're trying to make a staircase to the sky on the backs of the fallen. They're trying to step on people to get up. If they step on somebody, then it makes them feel higher. And that's not how you do things. You lift somebody else up so that they can bring you along. Possibly that's how I feel. Like if I can climb up, I'm going to pull somebody up, because together we succeed. There's a good quote that I like lately that the people at the top are collaborating. The competition happens at the bottom.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I you know, one of the things like I've got a friend over, you know, internet friend, I guess, who's a game designer developer, right? And he said, crabs in the bucket, right?
Crabs in a
It's
bucket. Mm-hmm.
crabs in the bucket, man. It's like this is what indie comics is becoming like, right? Where there's people that are like crabs in the bucket, stomping on each other to get to the top, crawling, and then when you realize that like there's nobody holding you up when you're there, so you're falling
Right.
back down, right? Because it's
Right.
like you know it's so slippery on the side of the bucket, right?
Well, if you
Because
just
it's
step
flat.
on somebody's head, they're gonna bite you in the leg. You know, like
Exactly, and they're
it's
going to
not.
drag you down as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Crabs in a bucket. Larry just told me that the other day, so I like that analogy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like yeah, one of my mates. Yeah, I interviewed him about 2 years ago, something during COVID, and he was like, "This is what it's like, you know, and like in the black community, it's like, you know, because he's, you know, Black American, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
but he just said this is what it's like here, and like people just at each other's throats trying to get up there, and I'm like, and now this is what like comics, indie comics have become.
It's
But like a lot
crazy.
of us, like I mean, for us on this side, like you know, for me, like doing this thing, it's all about networking, and it's all about showing other people what you've got coming up. Whoever my guest is, I'm here to promote my guest, right? You know, and then like you know, they don't have to promote me, but I enjoy their work. Like I look at your work and I go, man, this is such beautiful work. I want to get you on, talk about
Thank you.
it, you know, and you know, and if you know, you don't have to do anything for me because it's not about what you do for me. It's about how, you know, me talking about your work because I love your work. I like the, you know, what you're putting out there into the world, you know, and I'm enjoying it. It brings me joy, and I'm one of those guys who needs joy, right, to be creative, right? I need to be excited by what I see because otherwise I get you know get down like you know because a lot of us like can get go into ourselves into our own heads. So for me, because I've learned that I can be like that. Not for the last 6 years, I haven't because I've been you know being able to really get into things that I love, which is art and music. And so, but like every now and then you could feel like a bit down, and I go, well, what's you know, let's go watch a anime because it's very colorful for my eyes, a lot of humor
Mm-hmm.
going on and stuff, whatever. And you know, and the same thing with art, right? We pick up a comic book and we can go, you know, this is cool. We can look at that, look at you know, looking tattoo art designs and stuff like that as well. You know, because people at the end of the day, you know, it's up to you how you want to kind of like, you know, that somebody
Yes.
else's getting
Yeah.
it wrong.
Deviants like that. It'll do suggested over on the right.
Yeah,
I did put an
not that
Instagram
I'm getting
account.
your one, but I'm getting somebody else's. So
Yeah.
where is your
In
featured
the
gallery, right? To do it. See your
yeah, I think so. The gallery.
here we go. This looks cool, right?
Yeah, and that's actually early on as well. That's earlier on. I could tell. That was probably the first year I tattooed. I was starting to get saturation down pretty good.
Now
Um,
in,
I did put
in
a
finishing
link to
here,
my Instagram Spy Tattoos in the.
I was going to do your Etsy one. So in
Oh, yeah.
finishing here, guys, I'm going to like give you a link for you know in chat as well as here for Spy's you know ArtVictim's YouTube
Yeah,
channel. I mean, sorry, store, right?
my Shopify. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
Shopify. I you know I wish more people would jump on. I did have a sale the other day, so that was nice.
Well,
But
talk about that, right? Since we, you know, I mean, we can carry on if you want, but like, I mean, you know, but let's, you know, depending on how much time you got, but like, you know, are you able to
oh, I
carry
got all
talk
night.
about Shopify?
Yeah, Shopify is great. It was a little bit of a learning curve, but not really. Like if it's like an app, you know, basically you get this robust app, and it really is pretty self-explanatory. Everything's done with one click, basically 2 clicks,
Hmm.
and then so you can like some of my art on there is original. It's all original, but then some of it is like fulfilled by me, where I send it.
Yeah.
Well, then some of it is drop shipped, where I just put it onto a store like Printful. I've used Printful for
Yeah.
years.
So hold on there. So about 2 years ago, I was looking at doing that and I had already set up and I realized that I didn't because I'm not an artist per se, illustrator, I didn't have the art to do that. But I had all
Mm-hmm.
my design, everything, the name and the logo and the website,
Mm-hmm.
everything set up. And then because I was expecting to get some money out of that, but I got cheated out of some money. And so I was going to put that into it. So I couldn't pay $40 a month towards it. And so I stopped. But once, I'm going to kick off that. And like, once we do that, but because like now, because I have so many artists, I can reach out and say, hey, can you do a print of this? And I can put it on a t-shirt now.
Yeah.
Right. And do that. And this is why, because that's what I mean. Like I had to go with it, but like, how do you, because you're an artist, you can do that straight away.
Yeah.
Right. So tell us a bit more about that, man.
So I started back in the tattoo years where I was like, I have a website anyway, so people can come to, I had buytattoos.com back in the day or whatever. And then I was like, people are coming to my website anyways. Why don't I try that fashion thing again and sell some shirts? And I was starting to look into Shopify or looking into some different ways of what is drop shipping. I'm always cross training myself on different things. And I started it and it didn't really take off. So, and there was a business in town that started, and they were started by he's a shyster really, but he got into some money and he started a drop shipping store where he was printing on demand. And I knew some of the people that were working there, and they're like, yeah, it does work. It comes in, it prints on a computer, And I'm like, okay, the future is now. And then I started looking into it, and I got with that company. And man, they just really ripped off everybody. They ripped off the artists. They ended up getting sued from Harley Davidson because they were ripping off Harley Davidson shirts and selling it to the Chinese and stuff. Well,
yeah.
And they were claiming it as the best. Well, after I got ripped off from them, I looked on the internet, who is the best? Well, Printful came up as number one, and I went with them, and they are really the easiest one to go for. I'll put that in your private chat here too. So what you do is you just take your artwork. You can even do it on your phone. You can take your artwork right off your phone, put it in their app, size it how you want. If you do a transparent PNG, it'll have no background. If you do a big square, it'll be a big square, but it'll print off on a t-shirt and good to go. Well, it also links to Shopify. So what happens is if I first put it in Printful, design my products, and then put the link into my Shopify, somebody goes to my Shopify, like artvictim.net, they click on buy, they buy the t-shirt, it prints in Printful and sends it right to them. I don't even have to touch it. So it's kind of a go around where I'll pay Printful first, then Printful will pay me back the profit, and the whole thing is just there in my account.
Right.
I always tell people that they should have $100, $200 in their account on Shopify, because otherwise it can flip your account because there's like a lag, right? There's a lag between Shopify is a European bank. So there's a lag between an American bank and a European bank in its own self. But then there's a lag between if the credit card clears from your bank and the Shopify bank. So there's a lag basically. So you want to have a couple $100 in your account, but it works. I just sold a print 2 days ago. It printed and shipped yesterday. I didn't have to touch it. It's got my branding on it, and it's going to be a better print than what anyone else's, than what I would do here locally. It's going to be archival. That t-shirt right there is I think that's Printful as well. I use a couple companies now. I use Printful. I use Pixels.com, which is ran by Fine Art America, and I use Printify. So those three companies, I did have a little problem with Pixels for a second, because it depends on, Shopify did an update and Pixels didn't stick up to speed, and so they had a little bit of problem when I moved, and that order when that update came online. So you got to keep on it. There's always that managing thing. You got to sometimes be on customer support if there's a hiccup, but it's rare. Like, so Printful though, if I was going to tell somebody to start up, get yourself a Printful.com account, get yourself the Shopify account, and you'll be off to the races. Those shirts right there, they'll be just like that when they arrive. Sometimes the vibrancy is sometimes the vibrancy is a little lower, but nothing I've ever had anyone ever complain about. Those all over prints, those are great. What happens is they print the fabric, and they will cut and sew it right together in the factory. They got a process, and they come out great. Like I've had product from that, and it's just great. It looks good. We've all probably seen it and not even known it. I think a lot of companies are using it, and they don't. People don't know that it's there. I've had a bunch of anime.
So something came up across my Facebook, homepage this week from a company that was printing work that I know is not, wouldn't be for they have. My question was, is this, do you have a license with this artist? Because I know that's a famous artwork. And they had the work from one of very well known cover art from a Supergirl, and so they deleted that, and then they put up another one the next day. So in the comments, and so then I went to try to share that, and I wasn't able to share that with the question mark on a group for artists.
Yeah,
so could have screenshot it.
So that's where that company that I was talking about, my local company, got in trouble because they kept printing quote unquote Charlie Davidson shirts, which were straight up ripoffs. They straight up copied the art right off the internet, and they put it on there, and were selling it to the Chinese, because basically you can do wholesale, you can get wholesale that way, just about. So I put up my own artwork. It's all like original pieces. Now, some of it is fan art. So
why would you need anybody else's artwork, right?
Right, exactly. I have done fan, like that's fan art right there. So where I've gotten a cease and desist one time, and I kind of just roll with some of my fan art. You know what I mean? I could probably get.
Well, you're welcome to use our, do something for us and use it forever and ever, man. I'm like,
well, that'd be cool.
I think because what that does for me, and it's on record here, guys, is that it popularizes and lets people know that we exist and our character exists, and and then that's the whole idea of fame, or what was it, like money or fame, right? In this sense, it's like fame.
Sometimes you do it for the money, sometimes you do it for the fame, sometimes it's a little both, but it all, if it gets exposure and it gets real exposure and it gets people talking about it, that's free marketing. So
exactly. And then then you get to a point where you go, okay, that's enough, and then you go, now but I think I think with what we're doing in the indie scene, we need a lot of fame, to be honest. Right now we don't need money, we need a lot of fame, because we're not able to compete for fame with with all the big major brands and I
can't spend $100 a week on marketing. I can't, that's outward marketing I can't afford. So I'm basically going on word of mouth and algorithms to try to push me, and that we all know that doesn't work. I do play with marketing SEO and stuff like that, and you can Google ArtVictim and get me on Google search. So I'm getting there, but I haven't quite gotten enough in the bank account to click the Amazon button yet. And
and that's what stopped me from going ahead and doing our little piece of my own Shopify 2 years ago. It was like I didn't have the money. I was expecting that 2K to come in.
I've struggled. There are a couple times where I had to turn my shop off and put it into like a storage mode. For storage mode, I think you can do like $7 a month or something. I don't know what it is now, but there's a couple months I had to do that, and it was a couple of months, maybe even a couple months here soon if I don't watch out. But because times are still lean, but there's times where the store didn't make its own money back, and that's when it's rough, And Shopify is rough for that. There's some alternatives. You can do Wix. It's Wix. You can actually have a store links and offer products through PayPal. So there's different ways. You can have products up, but they don't necessarily drop ship like this. They don't necessarily work like this. Like really Amazon is one click of a button. I could click the Amazon button right now. But my thing is if that boob tube shirt or that Make Tacos Not War, if that went viral in Japan or whatever, sure, I'd be, I could flip my account 100 times before I accidentally make money, So it's like, I want to be able to back my ass up with a little bit of cash in there first before I really start pushing it internationally. It's kind of a scary button to push, but hopefully I get there,
Right.
I keep needing to make more product too. And then I what I got to do is I got to remember to market. So like every day now I've just tried to do a marketing challenge, like where every day I put up my own link. I put up my own link on Twitter. I put up my own link on Facebook. I put my own link up on this or whatever. I'm on Pinterest now, or I've been for a while. So I got to reinvest into that and, just try to push myself as much as I push everybody else.
Yeah.
I get into that mode where I'm like, oh, look at this guy's art now. I'll showcase more people than I do myself sometimes.
Yeah. All right. So in finishing, we come up to 3-hour mark. Probably the longest and most awesome. That's why I just wanted to keep going because you've had a lot of experience in this tattooing.
Good, I appreciate that.
And Shopify and stuff. And I think this is all about learning, right? Inspiring other people and getting them to think outside the box and stop thinking about just being, poor artists and stuff. But also there is that aspect that, being consistent and getting out there and letting people know what you're doing and getting on as many channels as possible and like just using, social media to be your little marketing tool, which a lot of people don't understand why it could be used really as a marketing tool. But and the other thing is like you could spend $2 on Facebook and reach a couple hundred people, right? For in a day, just by doing that, promoting yourself like that.
Yeah.
So, carry on.
Yeah. I mean, and I've done it a couple times, and there's been a couple times where it's worked. You just got to watch who you point at and who your demographic is or whatever. Yeah. Because otherwise, you could be spending it in the Philippines where they're not gonna really be able to, get shipping. You could they do make it so you can point your demographic a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So in finishing here, hey, you're going to be the first one I get to ask this, right? And I've never asked anybody to do this, but can you do a promo for Plunge-POP and Plungecast for me? Just like, you're watching such and such, and hit the subscribe button, and and then we'll go to the word of wisdom.
You're thinking about doing it right now? Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll do that words end it off with words of wisdom.
Okay. Hey, this is Spy ArtVictim, artvictim.net, and I'm here for Aru of Plungecast, right? Plungecast trademarked New Zealand. He's kind of a pop culture influencer that I dig, and I want you to check out his channels and his social medias because he's just a cool guy to talk to. Check out all his videos on YouTube and what else do we want? I kind of stumbled through that, but
this why I never do it. Like I've never done it before because I was like, let's see how this works. But one of the things I do at the end of every every interview is what I call words of wisdom, which is kind of like stealing people's advice in a little 3-minute to 5-minute little spot. And basically what it is, you take a couple of minutes to think about it, and what you would say to someone who's starting out, or someone who's an amateur, someone who's a professional, and someone who's never touched art in the world, in their life, never thought about it. So I'll give you a couple of minutes there, and then we'll I'll breeze through some of your artwork and give you a chance to think about that while you're doing that. So let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, words of wisdom, eh? If you're gonna be an upcoming artist,
hold on. Let me know when you're ready.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I was gonna showcase your artwork before we do that, but give me 1 sec. I'll just go through your prints because I think it's cool to see some of your work here, man. And a lot of people need to see your work. And like you said, got to keep the doors open. So the way to keep doors open is to actually buy support and buy work. And a lot of them are like are discounted here. Like there's some really cool stuff. I know within you live in America, so within America it will be really cheap to get these stickers out to you, and packs and stuff like that, whatever. But like across the other side of the world with us, it's a bit more expensive. But if you're living if you're over there in America, or maybe close by China, Canada and stuff, the postage wise won't cost so much. There's drop shipping and stuff like that, that you can get.
Yeah.
Be a part of, support artists like ArtVictim, who is doing a lot. And I'm really glad, after all this hard work, you're really popping off in the comic scene as well, dude. I really appreciate that, because I think you as a human being is a very kind person, right?
Oh,
and that's
thank
why
you.
I appreciate that. And I think having someone like you out here doing stuff like you do is very cool for us as creators to see something a bit more different that we can offer as part of our our projects, because not everybody appreciates what we do in the sense of what we're bringing, but there's other people bring something else new to the comic scene, and I love this, and I think it's really cool for that. So please check out ArtVictim's his Shopify. Before we go there, I'm going to put that link on, and then we'll put the words of wisdom. So there it is. It's in chat, artvictim.net. Go check it out. I mean, there's so many things there, and so thank you, Art. And I'm going to get you to come up and do our words of wisdom now.
All right.
Pop this up. And Solo, give me one sec, and take it away.
All right. Just kind of winging it. Some words of wisdom for artists. Keep with it and keep it being fun. That's the big thing. A lot of times we get into where it's a job. It feels like what are we going to do to make the next big score? But you got to keep it fun and stay consistent. Get yourself out there. You can't just get noticed while being in a box. You know what I mean? So stay organically cool. Don't be a douche. That kind of helps. I don't know. Depression comes and goes. Keep it a friend, but don't let them live there. Don't let them live in your house. You gotta kick them out every now and then, because the algorithms are not going to be in your favor. And just keep on keeping on. I guess I don't know. There's a lot of words of wisdom I could do. Our victims aren't we all, right? But like I said, don't live in that. We were talking about that, right? Don't live there, because you're an art hero to somebody.
Yeah.
You might think that you're doing the worst, but somebody else is probably looking up to you. So that's another good thing to think about.
All right.
Yeah,
that was awesome, man. That's something really cool. I think nobody's really thought about that before. You are a hero to somebody who's looking at your art, and you might not even know it. And I think that's why I think for me, I like to be as respectful as I can online, because I think you don't know how people are going to take it, and they might that's why I always when we end this, I always say certain things at the end of it, because I want people to feel good about themselves and know that I do care, and that there are people who do care out there.
Right.
So thank you, Art. I really appreciate it, man, for coming on.
You're welcome. Yeah, you never know what somebody's going through.
That's it.
They could have had a bad day. They could have had a bad day that day. You never know. People are under a lot of stress lately, and art's supposed to be one of those things that takes away that stress. And if it's giving you stress, scroll on. That it's just as easy as that. If you don't like it, don't look at it. But if you like it, allow yourself to enjoy it as well.
All right, guys. So thank you for hanging out with us. I know this was a long one, but there was a lot of meat in this potatoes and stuff with this interview. And thank you for hanging out with us. Hopefully, you guys got something out of it, and I'll be doing a bunch of clips from it for certain topics we talked about. But in a whole, like, this has been a really amazing interview and discussion that we've had, learning a lot about what how to friggin' market yourself, how to use the things that are out there available right now and technology wise to actually not help you be what's called a poor artist. There's so much technology, so much software, social media stuff you can use to stop yourself from like being poor under art. And I know it's as long as you're consistent, like with your work, people are going to look at you and turn to you. Like with art's put out so much work, and now everybody's like going, "Wow, I'm gonna get them to do this. I'm gonna get them to do that." And what we want. And thank you for do check out his website, and I really implore you guys to check out his website, check out the store, check out what's available there. Because it's really good stuff, and really, and I love pop art. I collect, like, there's so much stickers and badges that I own that like on. They're just rows of them because I just like having things like that cheerful enough. Like, look, I have toys in front of me like this, right, to brighten up my day. So I do appreciate it. So in ending here, thank you for hanging out, and wherever you are, be well, and hopefully you have a good day. But if you have a loved one close by, give them a hug and give them a kiss. Let them know that you care. And if you don't, then let them know online that you're all right. Send them a message, a text. I usually do that by just posting that some smart some art thing, something humor pieces, just that I'm okay, I'm fine, and hopefully you guys get a laugh out of that, and brightens up your day. So wherever you are, be well, be safe, and ka kite anō. Thank you. That's basically farewell in Maori in New Zealand, right? So thank you, Art. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bud.
Thanks, man. It's been cool.
Cheers, guys. See you, everybody. Catch us this coming week. We've got Niobe on Tuesday, New Zealand time. I think it's Monday, Northern Hemisphere. And on Wednesday, New Zealand time, I think it was a Tuesday. I'm not sure which days. But do have a look at all the live streams that are coming up, because I only live stream and then I clip the live streams. And so we've got a bunch of live streams coming up this week. We've got Niobe. We've got a guy from Australia on talking about like the Me Too with the anime, and of course what's going down now. Is it one of the channels just got another one just went down? Is it Crunchyroll that went down, or was it Funimation? I think it's Crunchyroll that just they're closed or something. So we're going to be talking about that. But then also there's Comics and Ramblings where I talk about pop culture and stuff. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Also tomorrow night we've got the movie thing, right? For New Zealand here. We do the weekly movie roundup, what trailers are coming out. So there's all that. Thank you so much. And wherever you are, be well.